Well, it's a very good evening from me, from the West Ham Voice. Welcome to West Ham Weekly. Thank you for joining me on this Monday night. The usual stuff, an update on the week that's just passed, some of the updates on transfer news, player news, a little bit about the women's team and the academy, etc. And of course, we're going to have to reflect on the games, aren't we? The Viborg game, as well as the game against Brighton at the weekend. So thank you for joining me. If you're new to the channel, do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. But let's get into the chat first and see who's in and say hello to a few people. Good evening to you, John. How are you, mate? It's all good buying these players, but they won't get a game until Christmas. Sorry, just fed up with the same players, same formation and same tactics, expecting different result. Insanity. Good point, because it's something I'm going to discuss later on as well, John. Good evening to you, Paul, from all the way from New Jersey, USA. Long-time viewer, first-time participant. Welcome and thank you for participating. Well, thank you for actually getting involved in the chat. Really appreciate it, Paul. It's my favorite show. Thank you very much. Had to come on to change our luck and bring some goals. Let's hope we do that, mate. Let's hope we do that between us. Good evening to you, Glyn. Man United are playing great football. I'd be happy with a reaction like this on Sunday. Keep me informed as to what the score is. They're half an hour in on that game, aren't they? Good evening, Oliver. Just don't get it. What's the point of buying new players and not playing them? Other teams are throwing theirs straight in. Baptism of fire. That's a good point, and that's something I'm going to discuss. Good evening to you, Epic. Is it too early to start speculating who the new manager will be? I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Is Poch available? Klopp out? There you go. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Vinay. Moyes still around? He is in. Get Klopp in. Good evening, Steve. I hope you're well, mate. Moyes has totally lost the plot, in my opinion. Continues playing the same team tactics. Creswell, Souček, Antonio should not be in the side. Cornet and Skamaka in for the next game. You know, it's, again, what people are all saying. Are you right? Are we right? Who's right? Moyes is the manager. You know, does he not know what's best? Poch not managing West Ham. Good evening to you, Daniela. Why not? Pochettino wouldn't be a bad manager, would he, for West Ham United? Not that I'm advocating it. Don't get me wrong. Good evening, WHU. Can the transfer window include buying a new manager? Who else have we got? Kenneth, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining all the way from Denmark. I hope everything is well over there. Steve, Antonio has to be dropped. And if we lose at Villa, I'm afraid it might be time for Moyes to go. Is that too early to say that? I've seen some of the other channels putting on shows about getting rid of Moyes. Let's axe Moyes now, etc. We're 3 games in, not 30 games in, but I'll take everybody's views. I don't like, I'm jumping ahead of myself because it was stuff that I was going to talk about later. But I won't lie to you. I think a lot of people that are calling for Moyes' head at the moment, I think are a little bit too hasty. Neil, good evening to you. 5:05 in the morning. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good Kalispera to you, Serif. I hope you're well. I'm very well. Good morning to you, Tony and Rhonda and Tony. Good morning, Tony. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, James. How are you? I'm not a Moyes out, but he has got to buck his ideas up now. Yeah, I won't deny that at all. Not going to sugarcoat it at all. Good evening, Juha. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, Fremmer. Good evening, Howard. How are you? And beautiful people. Good evening, Huge. Something seems really wrong with the dressing room. Have you heard anything? Something is really wrong with the dressing room, but we don't quite know. And there's an awful lot of talk about, you know, the fact that we've lost Noble, who kind of glued the whole team together. The fact that we've also lost Psycho. You know, Stuart Pearce, you know, he seems to have been a big miss. Quite an inspirational character, I would say, in the background. And quite possibly losing that, you know, those characters is quite a big deal. Declan said also about you losing Fredericks. We don't know what Fredericks was like in the background, but it's quite possible that Fredericks was another big character that sort of seemed to, you know, spur the players on, etc. May not have done it on the pitch, too many injuries, etc. So I think we are in a period of transition, and I think that's quite disconcerting. But I'm also going to talk about what David Moyes has said about the squad and about players, etc. And I'm just wondering if that's niggled a few players as well. So I'll come back to that. Good evening to you, Jay. I hope you're well. Get Noble in. Well, get him around the squad. I wouldn't deny that. Ian, how are you, mate? Bring back Sam. We're not that desperate. Fremmer. Klopp in, Klopp out, Moyes in, Moyes out, and shake it all about. 1-0 to Man United, eh? I mean, Chelsea lost 3-0 to Leeds United. Who would have thought that? Man United, who are so poor at the moment, are beating Liverpool 1-0. Kenneth, all the teams have figured out tactics. Moyes is a dinosaur. A lot of people are saying that as well. Chris, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again whilst expecting... sorry, I got distracted. Whilst expecting the same result. This is what Moyes has got to do. He's got to change it. Daniela, every manager has the up and downs. Even the great John Lyall had bad years, which is very true. This Moyes out is so stupid at the moment. It's only 4 games. Well, 3. 4 including Viborg, and we've got to get behind the team. I agree. Bill, good evening to you, mate. Gio showed a great heat map example. How come a managerial team cannot work this out during the game? That's a good point. I'm sure they probably do. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they sit and talk tactics and look at teams ahead of them, etc., and try to find their weaknesses and their strengths and so on, and try and counter that. I'm sure West Ham do the same as any other team. Greg, but it's getting it right, isn't it? Greg, hello from Dubai. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Is it nice and hot over there? Good evening to you, Anil. How are you, mate? Moyes knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for donkeys. Do we have a few donkeys, though, in the playing staff? There's 1 or 2 players that we're going to talk about later on. So why don't we get on with the show? Because the new format, because I know a lot of you, a lot of you are all right with it, and a lot of you don't like it. The new format is going to be, before I do the new format, we've got to say good luck to you, Paolo Futre. I hope you're getting better. As many of you will probably know, Futre was rushed to hospital at the weekend with a heart attack. Unfortunately, he was there at his mum's funeral. So we do wish you well, mates, and hope for a full and speedy recovery. So let's get on with the show. As I was going to say, I've changed the format. So we're going to do the women's and the academy squad first. We'll talk through those before we move into the next part of the show. So, if you remember last season when we were all winning, the men's, the senior team were winning, the under-23s were winning, the under-18s were winning, the women's team were winning, etc. And I suggested there might be quite a, it seems that the feel-good factor at West Ham United seems to be spreading. Everybody's being affected by it in a positive way. Now, we seem to have quite the reverse. Let's start off with the women's team briefly. They're still doing pre-season. They got thumped at the weekend, 5-0 at home to Liverpool. Look, not good. The first goal came on the 16th minute, and it was still only 1-0 at half time. But then Liverpool just went into overdrive in the second half. And get these games out of the way. I say it doesn't matter what it is, senior squad, etc. Get the bad games out of the way and hope that when the season starts, it'll get better. Yeah, they've got one more preseason game, the women's team. There's a lot of new faces, so Konchesky, he's putting a lot of new faces. He's bedding them, he's bedding them in, etc. And it's going to take time. And unfortunately, it's not sort of working well. Let's hope when the season starts, they do better. So they lost 5-0 in a preseason game. And then the under-21s that used to be the under-23s. There is a reason. I did read it, and I've completely forgotten what the reason was about changing it from under-23s to under-21s. But anyway, the under-21s, they played their 3rd game of the season now in Premier League 2. And after coming second in the league last season, they have started off pretty badly. This is their 3rd defeat in a row where they lost away to Leicester. It was an entertaining game. George Hurst gave the home side the lead in quite fortuitous circumstances, which tapped in a rebound after Leicester's initial work that hit the woodwork. Tawanda Masanzi. Let's call him Tawanza. I'm shit at pronouncing names. Superb volley in the Leicester second to get Leicester second, but we immediately struck back with Pierre Ekwa's brilliant strike. But then, despite putting more pressure on Leicester, we were hit with a sucker punch and we lost 3-1. Third defeat in a row. We're bottom of that league at the moment. I know a lot of people say it doesn't matter. It's only the under 23s or under 21, should I say, and it's just for experience, etc. But winning mentality is good. It's sort of it seeps through the whole club, doesn't it? And at the moment, the winning mentality is not there. Having said that, the under 18s did superbly well at the weekend. They hosted Southampton, who were champions of their league last season on the under 18s, and West Ham came second to them. The Southampton went a goal ahead, but the under 18s pulled back, and they did it with superb fashion, where they pulled it back to 4-1. Callum Marshall, Gideon Kadua again on the score sheets. There was an own goal as well. And they're just behind Chelsea in second place on goal difference. So well done to them. At least one team is winning. Let's go back into your chat before I go into the review of the two games that we played last week. Let's go into Kenneth. It's about progressing. And I've got this feeling that Moyes can't take. A lot of people are saying that Moyes can't take us further. I don't know. It's a period of transition, and I think we got to wait and see. We've got to bet all these players in, and I know what a lot of people are saying. You got to play these players if you buy them. Chris, it's 1 win in 10 games, 6 wins this year. Not good enough. Relegation form, European tour, papered over the cracks. Giving Moyes the time, but where does our next win come from? It could come on Sunday. Well, it should come on Thursday against Viborg, but I'm being facetious. So it could come on Sunday. I know Villa. Villa have gone out and bought a load of players. They're not doing that well at the moment either. Hugh, good evening to you. Good evening, mate. Thank you for joining. Moyes needs to change it up a bit and shake it about. Going to be a basement fire, and that's where we're at now. Are we going to stay there, though? I don't think we will. I don't think it's good, but I don't think we're that bad to have a relegation scrap. Let's move on to that later on. Dean, good evening to you. Wonder how Sully is thinking, considering we've hammered him for lack of investment, yet he is making spending shed loads of money for Moyes, and hearing him say they're not ready for a Premier. That's a really good point. We do have a habit. The first thing we aim at when things are going bad is the board. How can we aim at the board this time round? They spent a hell of a lot of money, an awful lot of money. Half time, 1-0 to Man United. I've just seen that on my phone. They're spending a hell of a lot of money, so we can't blame the board. This is down to Moyes. It's all on Moyes. I think, Moyes is going to be judged. He said in pre-season, I'll be judged on the players I buy, the games, etc., etc. And I think he's going to have to be held to that. But is it too early to sort of say, get him out now? Personally, I think it is. A lot of other channels and a lot of other media, social media, etc., and a load of other YouTube channels are already saying Moyes out. I don't buy into that. But anyway, huge. The real worry is Moyes doesn't seem to have any other tactics. He only replaces like for like. And I did mention during the week that it seems to me that Moyes seems to only want to buy first 11. And he's got to use a squad, hasn't he? You buy all these players. This week will be 8 players in, maybe even 9 that we bought in the transfer window. That's not bad. Of course, they need time to bed in. But goodness me, some of these players that he's looking at or he's buying, they're experienced professionals. Maybe not all of them in the Premier League, but he does need to make a bit of a change. Tony, if a win will change everything, but with the body language on Sunday was not good. 0 points from 6 games and maybe a Moyes out person. If we don't win on against Villa, and if we don't score, that wouldn't be good at all. And someone said, I think, the last time we lost 4 games in a row, the first 4 games in a season in a row was under Avram Grant, and look what happened there. Jay, can we start the academy team with Rice, Fabianski, Skorne, and Skamaka? You want Fabianski? I've got a theory about that. Good evening to you, Steve. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, Victor. I think Moyes has got the best out of this squad. I think a number of players are on the decline. That is very true. And he alluded to that as well. He actually said some of these players are not where they were at a year ago, a year and a half ago. And I think he's right. If you see some of the performances, you were surprised at some of the performances that were put in over the last few games. Huge. If Moyes does go, what do you think, Graham Potter? I think Graham Potter is a clever manager, good tactician. Would he be good enough for West Ham? It depends on what we want as a club. If we want to stay decent mid-table, maybe aiming for 8th, 7th, maybe even 6th, then maybe he's a good manager. He said himself, I'm aiming for 6th place this season. He's aiming for Europe with Brighton, and why not? But if we want more than that, and one of the criticisms with Moyes is he can't take us higher than 6th place. We won't get higher than 6th place with Potter. So what is it we want? If we want to be challenging for Champions League, then I would honestly say, hand on heart, Potter wouldn't be the man. If we want to be aiming for mid-table, top 10 finish, etc., in 9th place, 8th place, etc., Potter would be great. But what difference would that make between having Potter and having Moyes? To be quite honest with you, because they'll both get us to roughly the same place. Howard, Stell the Butcher. I'm actually, quite calm. I've had an awful lot of chats with an awful lot of people today, which have got me really riled. I won't lie to you. And I don't agree with a lot of things people say. Do I try to respect some people's opinions. I didn't earlier on. Someone made a comment about something, and I was quite vociferous. I used the C word, and I used it quite literally several times because I don't buy this whole Moyes out stuff. I think people have a right to have their opinion, but I don't buy it. Not yet, because we're only 3 Premier League games in. If it's 10 games in and we're still at the bottom, absolutely, it's a different conversation. Absolutely. Daniela, is one of the issues, are we playing the right teams in pre-season, conceding where we want to be now? Well, to be quite honest with you, Moyes didn't have half the players he's bought. And that's another thing. We knew we needed players. Moyes did say, I want to bring players in quickly, get the transfers out of the way rather fast. Unfortunately, we're coming now down to the wire. What is it? 8 days left, 9 days left, something like that. And we're still trying to bring players in. And who's at fault for that? I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know if that's the board. I don't know if that's David Moyes. I don't know if it's a combination of them. But one way or another, we should have done our business sooner. And then maybe Moyes would have had a different team to put out in pre-season. So he didn't have all the players that he kind of needed. WHU, that Regan Clayton is one to watch. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about him. He's been pretty impressive. And he also made the upgrade a couple of times last season to what was then the under-23s. Very good player. Oliver, the rot started at the tail end of last season. Absolutely. Not going to sugarcoat it without a shadow of a doubt. We haven't had a good run. We haven't had a good run for quite some time. And it's sort of seeped into this season as well. Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Martin. How are you? Joined a little bit late. Don't worry. You haven't really missed much with work thing, etc. What time did you comment? 8:47. Yeah, I really haven't missed much. All I've talked about is the women's team and the under-23s, and I'm about to sort of talk about the games that we played the other day. Daniela, yes, it's not a good start, but there's plenty of time. There is plenty of time. This is it. There is. Good evening, Charlie. How are you? Is Emerson finished his medical today? He had the first part of his medical, and apparently it should be completed tomorrow if they don't find anything wrong with him. Vinay, Moyes needs to go because of the weird attitude to signing. Not playing Kral was insane, and he is doing his best to destroy Areola's confidence. F him. He's got no respect for some of his players. I have talked about that, and I do agree with you at some point about that. And I'm going to go through the team later on. I'm going to talk about who I would pick. But then again, I do this. I do YouTube. If I was a proper manager, I wouldn't be sitting behind this screen. I'll be earning shitloads. But we all of us are managers, aren't we? We all know what players we believe we want. The only person that can really decide is Moyes. I agree with you on Areola, though. I won't lie. I think Areola should be starting, but for more reasons than just, not just shot stopping. There's a lot more to him than we kind of already know. Howard, crazy talk, 3 games in. Everybody needs to chill. Fergie was 1 game away from being sacked, and look how that turned out. Really good point. Epic. It's awful, Fabianski. Epic again. We play so much better with Areola on the pitch. Good evening to you, Patrick. Good evening, guys. We can all relax now. We can indeed. Paul, as soon as they get off the snide, they'll go a nice hot streak. As soon as they get off the snide, they'll go a nice hot streak. You're going to have to explain that. Sorry, Paul. Very nice. Players are declining because they know Moyes' tired tactics don't work anymore, and it's boring to do the same thing. Good evening to you, Learn. I hope you're well. Still totally ignoring the style of football. I haven't started yet. I'm not ignoring the style of football at all, but I'm also not ignoring some of the players that have just not put in performances as well. Let's scroll down a little bit. Chris, how many managers have we had in the last 20 years? And we have never beaten Brian. That's a really good point. Paul, even so, sorry, Matt, I was concentrating. I wasn't concentrating properly. Who scored that second Leicester goal in the under-21 game? You know I can't pronounce the name, so thank you very much for that. Howard, it was about your pronunciation. I know. The C word still said, yeah. Good evening to you, Mr. Levy Jr. I hope you're well. To remind everyone where you are. You're out in Tenerife, isn't it? Is it South or North Tenerife? Tell us where you are. And if anyone's going on holiday to Tenerife, even I haven't seen him yet, but apparently he's such a singing maestro. Learn to dig. Hoping for miracles in December is for kids still. I didn't say miracle. Well, I didn't. Did I say miracles? I don't know. Juha. I'm getting annoyed with all this. Get rid of the manager. We should be annoyed that the team can't move the ball and just give it. Why don't I go into the review of the games, shall we? Because we were poor. So let's start off with the V-Board game, shall we? At least talk about a win. Look, I said this the other day. It didn't really feel like a proper European night, mainly because there was a rail strike. The stadium was half full, and if the club had known how many tickets they really sold, perhaps they should have sort of closed off some of the top tiers and moved people down to create a bit more of an atmosphere. But anyway, what was it, 300, 400, 500 V-Borg fans? They were there, they were having fun, they were chanting, they were singing, they were out singing us, they really were, and they showed some great support. I mean, we do the same when we go abroad. Let's not deny it. When we do away games, even not just abroad, but even in Premier League, when we go to away games, we really put on a performance, the West Ham fans, and the V-Borg fans did exactly the same. Look, despite them going 1-0 down, let's go with the team first of all. The team, there were some changes, and it was nice to see. Skamaka started, Ogbonna came back, and he was captain for the team, which was fantastic. Areola started, Cornet started. Fantastic to see Ashby. He was fantastic as well. And Connor Coventry, bit of a quiet game, but it was good to see some of these players being given some game time, and it was great. Look, even when we went 1-0 up, and it was a great goal by Skamaka and a great assist by Cornet, V-Borg their heads didn't go down. They kept playing their game, good passing game. They were quite composed, etc. Look, they didn't have the bite, and I did say in my review of them the other day, if this was against a better team, we might have been in a bit more trouble than we think. So fair play to them. They did some fantastic play, but they didn't have the bite that they needed in order to get into the game. Bowen. His goal went in. It was nice to see him strike that, but he looked a shadow of himself as well on Sunday. But it was great to see Bowen get that goal, and it was a really, really good strike. I thought that was going to get him going for Sunday's game. Unfortunately, it didn't. And even Ben Rama, I mean, the great run down the left flank and then knocking it back to Antonio for the tap in. It was good. There was some good play from us, but we got to think about who it was we were playing. It was against V-Borg, etc. And they didn't really hold up much sort of competition for us. Great to see Cornet. I thought he played pretty well, and it was a great attempt by him as well to try and get a goal. So, after that game, we thought, you know what? This is all doing really well. We've got to win, etc., etc. And we think now, with our season has finally started, and I thought that this was going to be the right time for us to be playing Brighton, and I was confident, as I always stupidly am confident when we play Brighton. I always think we're going to finally break our duck. Unfortunately not. We saw the team line up, and I guess this was the first thing that a lot of people were disappointed with. Fabianski was back in goal. Kera, it was not by decision. Moyes said I had to sleep on it to decide whether to play Kera or not. So what was he going to do? Was he going to bring back Johnson to play in central defence in order to be slated by everyone when it is not really his best position? Look, Johnson would do well in a back three, but not so well in a back two, unfortunately. And that's not the player's fault. He's not built to play as a centre back of a two. So Kera wasn't a Moyes like, I've got to get this player, and it was like I had to sleep on it, which was a little bit frustrating. Creswell was back, Rice and Souček in the middle, and Bowen, Fornals, Benrahma, Antonio. So Cornet benched, Scamacca benched. If any of those players I thought might have actually started, I thought Cornet, with his Premier League experience already, I thought Cornet would have started. And it was, I will not lie to you, it was really disappointing that Cornet didn't start the game, because I said, what I would have liked to have seen, and it's nothing against any of these players here, but what I would have liked to have seen was three players behind the striker. I wanted Scamacca, but three players behind the striker that were going to cause some problems with pace, etc., against Brighton. So Cornet, if you had Cornet on one side, Bowen on the other, and then Benrahma playing in the middle, that would have given Brighton something to worry about with their back three. Didn't happen. And as people are saying already in the chat, you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Unfortunately, just didn't work. Look, I couldn't believe the actual. I can't pick out one player that I thought was even half decent. Kera, and Moyes, Moyes said, he made a mistake, and he kind of berated him a little bit. He picked out Zuma and he picked out Kera for the goals. To me, Zuma was at fault, to be honest with you, for this goal, because Zuma, he took it all the way into their half, and then he lost it. That sloppy pass, and the minute Zuma lost the ball, you knew damn well he was never going to get back in time. He looked sluggish, he looked slow, and you knew damn well he wasn't going to get back. Kera had a choice to make. Okay, it was a mistimed challenge. Kera's new to the Premier League. He had to run across to cover that side of the pitch, and it was unfortunate. And I feel sorry for him. His first start for West Ham United, and he gave the first Premier League start, and he gave a penalty away. It was a shame. I hope that doesn't knock the boy's confidence. But at the same time, I hope Moyes doesn't turn around and say to himself, I was right. I shouldn't be starting players early too soon, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Because in Moyes' mindset, that's what he might do. He might look at the Kera situation and go, well, I was right. I won't be starting any new player again so soon. But we need some of these new players. There's no risk in playing Cornet. There's almost no risk in playing Scamacca. Maybe at the start he might have given them more Brighton more to worry about as well. Look, an awful lot of players were a shadow of themselves. They really were. It was really quite surprising that we had players like even Declan, even Bowen. Some of these players just didn't seem to be at the races. And people are saying, is there trouble? Is there? And I know Declan came out and said after the game, we're not a Man City and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And a lot of fans are berating him for that as well. I think Declan wears his heart on his sleeve. The last thing we want right now is for the fans to get onto Declan Rice's back, because that's just going to make it even easier for him to go, my last season, why do I care? Etc. He hurts. Okay, he's got to show proper leadership. There's no denying that. He's got to be careful with what he says and how he says it, etc. But he hurts. Third game in a row. He's the captain of the team now. He's got to lead that team out, and it's hurting him. It must do. And I think maybe Noble being a big influence is missing. And when Declan sort of talked about Noble in the past, I could look to him, we can talk to each other, he can tell me how to behave, how to act, etc. And last season, he knew that Noble was all on the bench or he was on the sidelines, etc. And he was still around. He doesn't have that now. He doesn't have that cushion. He's still a young lad, 23 years of age. He's still young to be a captain, and he's still learning. But and maybe some of the things he said weren't maybe quite right. But at the same time, you just knew that when a captain has to be behind the cameras after a game, and when we've lost and we've played dismally, what's he going to do? He can't put a shine on it. He can't turn around and say, "Oh well, it was unfortunate." I know Moyes came out and did that. Oh, we played well until the goal. Well, I don't see where we played well. We were kind of waiting to start all game, and it didn't really happen. But anyway, let's move on, because Moyes finally made a change, and we were standing there watching this, and he got Scamacca to start warming up. I think on around about the 50th minute, 52nd, 53rd minute. It took him until the 60th minute to get him on. Almost as if by clockwork. I've got to wait till 60 minutes. I won't do it beforehand because that's what I always do. And then he got him on at 60 minutes. Look, should that have made a difference? I would have put Cornet on at the same time at that moment in time. I would have got Cornet on. Look how they gelled together against Viborg last Thursday. I would have got them both on. Get Cornet's crosses in sooner. Cornet came on the 75th minute. Scamacca was already 15 minutes into the game, and he was getting no service. He had to one time he dropped almost to the left back position in order to get involved in the game. Right. If there's a criticism, that's it. That's the criticism that I think Moyes can't get away from. This tactic of not playing new players. Matthias Nunes, who's joined Wolves, he joined, when was it? Last Thursday, Friday, whenever it was. He played at the weekend, and I looked at some of his chances. He had a couple of chances. He didn't score, but you get him playing. It won't be long before he starts becoming a real nuisance, because you're going to bet him in while he plays. This 60th minute, 70th minute substitution malarkey, I won't lie to you. I don't like it. I did say, I put a team up before the game when I did a preview on Sunday morning. And I said, we should be playing Scamacca. We should be playing Cornet. We should be playing, even if you want to play the same system, doesn't matter. If you want to play a 4-2-3-1, then fine. But get players in that are going to show something different. Moyes has talked about how the team is stale and how and things are, there's a transition going on, etc., etc. But unfortunately, you've got the resources now available. He's already got 6 players in. Okay, one of them's injured, but he's already got 6 players in. He can make changes. The reliance on certain players and almost feeling like an obligation to play certain players is really unfortunate. And I don't think Moyes is doing himself any favors by doing that at all. Look, centre-back options. Zuma, slow, sluggish. I think if Moyes had more choices available to him, he must be ruining the fact that Bonner's still not ready to come back, that Dawson's still not ready to come back, because Zuma just looked so off the mark completely. He really just looked slow, sluggish. Like I said, I think, it was his fault for the goals, especially the first goal, by giving the ball away needlessly. And we know that Zuma is just not he's not match fit at the moment, but he's got to play him. Sorry, I've done that one, haven't I? For me, when it comes to the Villa game at the weekends, look, I could go on about the game. It was poor. We played poorly. We didn't pass. We didn't move properly. We looked lethargic. No player shone. Even Bowen was quite reserved. Even Declan. Probably the worst game I've seen Declan play since being in a West Ham shirt. No one showed up. Look, you want to make changes? We believe Emerson should be a signing by tomorrow. So if he's a signing by tomorrow, he'll be available for the Villa game. Forget what's going on Thursday against Viborg. 3-1. I'll be very, very surprised if we get knocked out of that now. That should be, even if we play all the youngsters, that should be a breeze. So if you want to make changes, David Moyes, and if you want to put some freshness back into the team, Areola. I was mentioned earlier why I want to pick Areola. Not just about his shot stopping, but it's more commanding in the 18-yard box and his distribution. One of the things with dear old Fabianski, who's been a great servant to West Ham United, one of the things with Fabianski is his distribution is appalling. There was one time when he got the ball, he went to throw it out, and it went straight to a Brighton player. And it came straight, and we were under pressure again. And Areola, his distribution is much sharper. It's much better. And then if you want to play a wing-back system, I think Moyes has got no choice at the moment but to play a wing-back system. And I'll tell you for why. Because Zuma, looking so sluggish, needs help. You cannot have Zuma in a back two at the moment. He's just not got the legs. Now, it's quite possible that we'll see Ogbonna back for the game against Viborg on Thursday, but that still may not be enough for him to be back in Premier League football for the following Sunday. I might be wrong. But my feeling at the moment is that we've got Zuma. He's not on form without a shadow of a doubt. He's slow, he's sluggish, etc. So in order to secure a little bit more, have a bit more security in defence, I think we do have to go to a back three. I'm not a massive fan of it, but, needs must. And I think quite possibly Kerr will benefit from that, as well as Creswell. Creswell, not great out on the left anymore, but certainly in a back three, he looks a little bit more assured himself. So you've got your back three, and then you've got a choice between whether it be Johnson or Harrison Ashby. We know what Moyes is like. He probably won't play Ashby in a Premier League game, but he kind of earned the right by his performance against Viborg last week. But we know Johnson is not great at being a wing back, but he may not have a choice there. If Emerson is signed, it kind of almost goes without saying that he should be at left wing back. And then Moyes has got options up front. Souček is not being great. We know that. He's not been on form for quite some time. So quite possibly, Moyes should then decide, who do I play alongside Declan? Now, Benrahma may be a little bit further forward, or if you want a bit more security, then Fornals. And then get Cornet in, get Bowen in, and get Scamacca in. Now, Benrahma didn't have a great game, but would I drop him for the Villa game? It might be an option just to say, I'm mixing it up. I'm changing it around a little bit. Give Cornet the time. Let's see what he can do. He might be able to run at, which he does. That's his game. Run at the Villa defence and give him problems, and have Scamacca up front, to cause them problems as well. Moyes can change it, but we know Moyes won't do it. We know Moyes is risk averse and he won't do it. And it will take him a lot more time to get round to doing such things. Look, I talked about what Moyes has said it's 2-0 to Man United. Rashford has scored. He's shit as well, isn't he? Moyes said, we're quite in a big transition. You might be looking at the team and saying it's the same team as last year, but we're in a period where we're trying to introduce one or two new ones. Introduce them, David, mate. You bought them, use them. Where's the harm? You don't have an obligation to start Antonio every game. You don't have an obligation to start certain players every game. You can mix it. That's what a squad's all about. It's not just about having 11 players. It's about having 16, 17, 18 players that you can rely on. Pick a player like Scamacca for one game. Then you might think a different game might require Antonio. Do it. One game might require Benrahma. Another game might require Cornet. One game might require Souček alongside Declan. Another game might require whoever. Lanzini alongside Declan, etc. That's what a squad's about. I'm not talking about changing it over and over and over again, but tweak it every now and again and get the best out of these players and see what they have to offer. And he went on to say, so we've got to look at that as well and decide when the changeover time is. Changeover time. I said this the other day. It's almost as if he's only focusing on the first 11 and nothing else. We've got a little bit of that going on, but we've got to try and keep it going and hanging in there. We're maybe not quite ready. Who's not ready? You're maybe not ready, but maybe the players that you bought might well be ready. Kerr, another couple of games. I'm sure he'll fit right in. Cornet, he's a Premier League player. He's done a season already with Burnley. So there are players that, are ready. And maybe I know it's the mindset. And I know I'm kind of hitting hard on David Moyes at the moment, but I still think he's a good manager. Still think he will get the best out of the players. But unfortunately, he's got to make changes and he's got to make them soon. And when he talks about players, not being ready and not being where they were a year and a half ago, someone asked earlier on, is there something going on in the back room? Is it not quite as harmonious, etc., as it was? I just wonder if it's David Moyes himself that's created the disharmony by talking about players aren't where they were. They're not like they were a year and a half ago. Has he spoken to individual players, or is he talking about that in general? Because if a player's listening to that, they might be going, well, is that me? Well, what, and that might be off-putting for them. That might be demoralizing for them. Why not get a player to one side? He may not do it. I don't know what his managerial style is like, but why not get a player to one side, put him aside and say, this is what I want from you. You're not delivering. You're not doing what I need you to do. And this is what I expect you to do. Have those one-to-one conversations with them instead of just saying in general, some players are not where they were. a year ago, a year and a half ago. I wonder if that's caused the disharmony. I don't know. I don't know. I've ranted. I'm ranting a lot, and I hate doing it as well because it's not me. I don't like to be completely negative, and I berate my mates for being negative, and but I think Moyes has got it within him to change the team and get the best out of the team. But he's got to have the courage of his convictions sometimes and make changes. Don't wait till 60 minutes. Start a player like Cornet. Start a player like Scamacca. Don't drop Kerr for the next Premier League game because that will really do him in. Play him. Turn around to him and say, you made a mistake. Learn from that. I used to have a boss that used to say to me, don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. So long as you don't continue to make the same mistakes, don't be afraid of doing that. And maybe that's what Moyes should be saying to the players. Moyes should look at Kerr and go, you fucked up. You made a mistake. Just learn from that and time your runs better, time your tackles better, etc. When you're faced with that situation again. Don't just go, he didn't do well. Kerr, I like him. He was quite neat. He made that mistake. But otherwise, I thought he was quite a neat and tidy centre-back. And it's just what we need. But at the moment, he's finding his way. He's feeling his way into the new team. The last thing he wants to hear is from the manager is to say that he fucked up. Anyway, let's move on. Let's do your comments before we move on to the next part of the show. Right, there's definitely trouble. Yeah, we mentioned that. Ian, I agree, Stel. Far too early. Yeah, we talked about that as well. Howard, I don't really care who the manager is. I just want to see passion, determination, fight, teamwork, goals, professionalism, progression, stability. Am I asking for too much? No, it's what we expect of our player. If we'd have gone out there and gave it a really good shot and lost, we would have gone, fuck. We've been unlucky. Whereas we can't say that. And I think what gets to fans is when we see such a lackluster performance and then we go, what was all that about? And no one shone in that game at all. Jose, good evening to you. Something went wrong in our preseason training. I don't know what or why, but it seems obvious we started the season under form and underprepared. Well, the players did talk about preseason training and how tough it was. Are they now quite leggy because of it? I don't know. Charlie, are we to announce Emerson tomorrow? And I think David Moyes should go for Vanaken. Yes, they're both coming up in the transfer window part of the show, mate. So that ain't too far away. Patrick, Arsenal lost their first 3 games last season. Chill out, everyone. That's a really good point. All right, look, Arsenal look they're on fire at the moment. When I saw the highlights of their game at the weekend, I was like, oh wow. But you're absolutely right, Patrick. Without a shadow of a doubt, Arsenal did lose their first 3 games, and look where they ended up. Victor, I think a lot of people that want Moyes out never really wanted Moyes in the first place. We have a history of fighting relegation. Don't matter who the manager is, it's in our DNA. That's a really, really good point, Victor, and I agree with you. I think there are a lot of fans that never wanted him here, and now they're finding the reasons to say, this is why, I was right all along. Fuck that. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. This manager has taken us to Europe 2 seasons in a row. He's taken us from the brink of relegation when he came back for the second time. He's done it twice. He's saved us from relegation twice, and he's moved us from there to 6th and then to 7th. Have we overachieved? Are we now expecting too much? I said the other day, if we finish mid-table, and win a cup, for me, that's a great season. If we finish lower half of the table and win nothing, then it would have been a bad season. But a terrible season is getting relegated. And I don't think for a minute we're going to get relegated. Max, how long have you been on and how much longer are you going to be on for, pal? Probably another hour, Max, and I've only been on 40 odd minutes. Frano, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. To sum up these poor starts of our beloved West Ham, let's go back to simple things like take the ball, pass the ball, take the ball, ball pass, etc. Because our play is shit, no vision, can't moisten. Yeah, I agree. Our passing, our movement, there were times during the game on Sunday when player had a ball at his feet, looking around, and no one was moving. There was no movement at all. I don't know what was going on. Glenn, good evening to you. All remember how Arsenal and Newcastle started last season. Plus, I can't understand Moyes and not playing the new signings. This is what I've just said. So, Paul again, Messina. Once they get a win, they'll go on a nice winning streak. I think that as well. David, good evening to you, mate. Moyes needs to change the way we play, but we know he won't. I hope he does. He's got to. He's going to have no choice. Vinay, how many of you honestly believe that Moyes will change, stop being stubborn, and use some innovative tactics? Look, I think he's gonna go to a back three. I have a feeling that he will. For some of the reasons that I mentioned, it's going to be probably better for the players that we have available, and maybe just to give that assuredness at the back. Like I said, I know it's a bit negative playing a three at the back and wing backs, basically a five at the back. I know it's a bit negative, but what we've got to do now is we've got to stop teams scoring goals against us. And at the moment, playing a back four with Zuma in there, etc., and a new player, or whether it be Johnson and so on, playing a back four at the moment is just not working. So I've got a feeling he will change it at the weekend. I've got a feeling he will go with a back three with two wing backs to try and change it. Debbie, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Hi to you as well. I'm going to jump a few, so do forgive me. Stel, how long have you been? Oh, you asked me that already. Garino, how are you, mate? Stel, called me a racist last week. I feel like father. Did I? I didn't do that, Garino. Surely not. Here we go. Michael Levy Jr., South Tenerife, Las Americas, Los Cristianos, and Costa Adeje. I've been to Cristianos. Oh, no, we stayed just outside Cristianos. I know you had known, but it's a couple of years ago. Mate, when we go back there, we'll come and give you a visit without a doubt. Good evening to you, Rob. Man United first half tonight showing the passion our players didn't against Brighton. See, it can be done. It can be done. Learn to dig. Results aside, there's contradictory press communications, rigid tactics, puzzling selections, favourites, technically deficient players, lacking of pace, fullbacks who can't press at all. Nothing much wrong then there, is there, Learn to dig? Good evening to you, Mice Collective. How are you? Put a cat sticker on the ball, Zuma will get a hat-trick every game. Let's scroll down a bit. Michael, I think the shape is a problem now. It doesn't work anymore. Our attacking three disconnected from the rest of the team, and Antonio miles from three behind him. Do you remember that used to be like that before? You know, Antonio being completely isolated. What was going on? Was it the tactics that Brighton used that sort of put Bone out of action, etc.? I don't quite know. He wasn't making the runs. It did seem quite a bit disjointed. New formation needed. What do you guys think? What about a back three? You know, would you be happy with that? You know, because if Moyes continues with a back four with the current team players that he's got available to him, I'd be worried. Would you be happy with a back three, wing backs, and playing a different style? Inside game, good evening to you. People just need to give Moyes time to trust the process. A lot of signings have come in, but need time to adjust. That I also agree with. I do also agree with that. You know, getting in so many players, and we talked about this in pre-season. We said if we get too many signings, what's that going to? How's that going to affect the squad? How's that going to affect the team? I bet you a pound to a penny. Many of the teams that have bought an awful lot of signings in won't do that great. You know, there might be one or two that will do, but I bet you in general, when teams have bought in like 8, 9, 10 players, etc., I bet you there'll come a point where they just, you know, they'll lose their way a little bit. Frano, V-Board game just showed us fans what Moyes can see. I mean, Benny was bang on as a 10, Cornet on the left and Skamaka. We would win against. I think that too, to be quite honest with you, or we would have certainly given them a much better game than we did. WHU, Stel, do you think that players, maybe some coaching staff, are too scared to voice their alternative opinions and ideas to Moyes? People have asked that as well, many a time, and people are alluding to that's why Psycho left, because he thought that that the coaches weren't being taken any notice of. I don't know. I mean, there was quite an interesting thing that was that came out during a couple of weeks ago, where I think it was about Newman. Newman will give Moyes options of players to sign, and he will be the one that would decide on his own. So Newman will go, what about this player? What about that player? I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. No, 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 no. It felt as if no discussions were being had. It was like Moyes going, no, yes, no, maybe, no. You know, and I wonder, I mean, he is stubborn. David Moyes is a stubborn man. We know that. He does things his way. And I just wonder if there's an element of that. I don't know. He must get the players together. They must talk things through. Surely, you know, Declan now is now the captain. Surely they must sit down and talk tactics and talk about how things were and what went well, what didn't go so well, etc., etc. Surely he would expect the coaches and the playing staff to turn around and tell him what they think. Will he take notice of that? That bit, I don't know. Charlie, West Ham are a team. Sorry about that. West Ham are a team West Ham are a team that the tactics they make it wrong because they make Souček box to box and make Rice drop between defenders. I think Vanaken will be perfect. Emerson should be official. So you're saying it's about the midfield. Yeah, Souček, it looks like Moyes has actually tried to do what we were all complaining about, or certainly I was complaining about last season, where I said that Declan should sit. He's a defensive midfielder and give Souček the option to go further forward. That's happening, but nothing is gelling. So even though that's happening, it's just not gelling. Vinay, Cornet is not ready for the Premier League, even though he played for Burnley for 1 year, scored 9 goals and most of them outside the box. Look, I know you're being, you're being cheeky with the comment, but I agree with you. Totally agree with you. Frano, we need a change and we can only do that with players we have. Good evening to you, Ed. Lose the iPad every time a sub comes on. What a joke. Just tell well, that's how they do things. Do you remember the old sheet that you used to write tactics and show the player, etc.? They do it all with the iPad now. They think it's easier, better. Who knows? Vinay, Moyes is the only manager I know who does not like playing new signings. Is he for real? I wonder. It is annoying. It annoys me. It definitely does. Neil, Moyes has lost the plot. Rice is being tapped up and his head's being turned. Now, Declan's had a baby, hasn't he? And I don't know, is that actually a true story? I don't know. But congratulations to you, Declan, if you have. Maybe his Declan's head is in other places. Just had a child, etc. So maybe he's Declan has been tapped up for the last 2.5 seasons. So that's nothing new. But we know Declan will go at the end of this season. Nothing's going to stop him now if we don't have a decent season at least. I don't know. Has his head been turned? He certainly doesn't look right without a shadow of a doubt. Frano, I'm sure without a doubt that we'll bounce. Remember, guys, a new day starts in dark. So let us use this bad game for one to come and as fans turn it around. I think it will turn around. I really do. I think it will. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well, all the way from Canada. Feeling depressed? Don't be depressed, mate. Don't be depressed. We'll win on Thursday and all will be rosy. Mice Collective. Is Moyes a man or a mouse? Is he a man given his timid behaviour? Michael. Apparently, Moyes just bought himself a delicious fresh cream cake, but he won't eat it yet. It's in the fridge. He'll fancy it next month when it's gone on. Learn to dig. Still, we don't have a central midfielder who can play a forward pass. Now that we have a new striker, people are noticing. Well, we do. We've got young Flynn Downs, and Moyes made an interesting comment about Downs as well, not being impressed in pre-season. Oh, great. Why don't you build the kid up? He only had the best pass success rate of all leagues, all English leagues last season. And now all of a sudden, it's a big step up for the boy. Of course it's going to be. Do I expect Downs to start? No, I don't. Did I expect him to get a little bit more game time than 5 minutes against Viborg? Yes, I did. And apparently he was carrying a little knock, and maybe that's the reason why he didn't play any longer. Would I want him to come on the pitch and play a different, try and play a bit of a passing game, as you say, in some of the Premier League games? Yes, I would like to see that happen. So we do have a passing player. We've got the best passing player in the league, in all the leagues last season. But will Moyes use him? This is the problem. Good evening, Mr. Mace. I hope you're well. 2 good seasons based on an identity of hard work and an incredible team spirit. With them things, you can give anyone a game. Without them, you haven't got a team. Good points. Really good points. The team spirit is not there at the moment for whatever reason it is. Like I said earlier on, has Moyes created this lack of team spirit by making the comments he made about some players are not where they were a year and a half ago? It's kind of, I know a lot of people think he was talking about Souček, but was he only talking about Souček, or were there other players he was alluding to as well? And when a player hears that, what effort? Where's the incentive to put the effort in? If it's Souček, for example, if Souček knows that Moyes is talking about him, is that meant to be encouraging the player, or does just that demoralize the player even more? Some players will rise to that, other players won't. Epic. Declan Rice has no leadership qualities. He shouldn't be the captain. I disagree. I think Declan showed his leadership qualities last season. I think they'll come back. But this is a tough period for the boy. He's not gone through. No, he wasn't captain when we were having a bad time of it when he started his senior career at West Ham. But now he's going through something quite different. Let's not forget, this is a learning curve for Declan Rice as well. He's had 2 very good seasons, of which he's been like captain. when Noble hasn't played for the last season and a half, 2 seasons. Now he's on his own, and this is something new to him. We've got to remember that as well. This is new territory for Declan Rice. When we're going through a bad patch, this is where your leadership qualities come through. I hope Declan pulls through. I think he will, but it's a big learning curve for him as well. Good afternoon to you, Douglas from Ohio. We've got Ohio, Canada. We got Australia. I mean, wow. It's a proper, international show, this. Learn to dig. Frano, Stell and others don't understand how Antonio is our most creative player. He chances great, but not. I'm sorry, mate. I really am, but I don't get that. Unfortunately, Antonio was missing at the weekend, as were a number of other players. I'm not going to lie to you, but our most creative player, no. What? Behind Bowen? Behind Benrahma? Behind even Cornet? I don't think so. Steve, Soufal has been a shadow of himself. Kresi's legs have gone. Souček has been subdued for a while, but all in all, whole side lacks intensity. There's a number of players who are not where they should be at, and maybe some of them maybe can't be at anymore. Creswell being one of them, for example. Maybe Soufal, now that we've paid 5 million for him, now we know why we paid 5 million. He had a great season, and now he's off the boil. Kenneth, I think besides his managerial career in Everton, he has done nothing. Yes, 2 times in Europe for West Ham. Thank you, but we need to evolve. But this is evolution. Don't you think, Kenneth? It's slow. Evolution is slow. Revolution is where you've got to make wholesale changes. And in fact, the irony is Moyes has been put in I bet he'd rather didn't have to sign 7, 8, 9 players in this transfer window. Mind you, having said that, he could have done himself a favour, and he could have actually had signed a player or 2 in January to ease the pain now. Gary, good evening to you. Warburton and McKinley must have more input on team selections and tactics. Surely they can see what's happening. New signings must start to freshen things up. You would like to think that Warburton and McKinley are involved. McKinley is, he's the what was he, deputy manager or what, or whatever you call him, second coach or head coach and so on. And Warburton, they've got to have an input, haven't they? I'd be very puzzled if they were sitting there saying nothing, or no, I would be very, very surprised. Daniela, our fans need to get off the players' backs, and Bobby Moore made captain of England in '64 at the age of 23. So good point, Ed. Moyes is too afraid to play new players, just like he's afraid to attack the top teams. I agree. I won't disagree with that. It's a real shame. Oliver, Zuma hasn't been the same since the cat incident. Do you know, that is a really good point. It looks like it's shaken him quite a bit. Good evening to you, Webb Gibbs. You are right too early to panic. Team needs to support, not moaners. We often have had bad starts, but support is needed. Exactly. I've had my say. I've tried to be critical, constructively critical, but there are a lot of fans out there, and each to their own. Whatever a fan wants to think is what a fan thinks. I'm not here to change their opinion, but I agree with you. I think a bad start doesn't mean that it's going to continue to be a bad start. I'd be extremely worried if it did continue. But there are a lot of people. It does feel like a lot of fans have been waiting for this moment. It does feel like that they've been waiting for the moment to really start getting on Moyes' back, because they never really wanted Moyes in the first place. Let's scroll down a little bit so I can catch up, because we're getting quite far behind on the chat. Tim will fix it. Good evening to you, mate. Sorry, I've just seen this. Got to start from the beginning. You are missed by from the network. You were the best. Thank you very much. I hope you subscribe, Tim. I'm only here on this channel now, no other channels. Let's scroll down. Yes, it's 2-0 to Man United. Let's go. Good evening, Mr. Dodds. How are you? Any update on the war between us and the away fans, though? Yes, apparently they are looking into it. How can you look into a war? No, apparently it has been raised, and apparently there's work being done to try and bring the wall down. There have been alternative offers or proposals. One of them is to put perspex up, so at least it's a wall, but you can see through it. Another one is to put netting up. So these proposals have been put forward. Now, it was because of the game against Rapid Vienna last season, when people were lobbing stuff, but from both sides, etc. But it's the worst thing in the world. It really is. It's shit. It's horrible. Completely kills the atmosphere. There are alternative ways. Whether we still don't know who actually decided to put that up, whether the club asked the stadium to do it, or whether the stadium made a decision to do it themselves. Don't know. Haven't got to the bottom of that yet. But alternatives are being looked at. But who knows? They may decide it's going to stay as it is, which will be a damn shame. Bill, Viborg on Thursday will be ideal to try and get a format change. But but can you imagine, Bill, if we play 3 at the back against Viborg, everyone would be going, why are you being so negative against a team like Viborg? We're not going to be able to win that one, mate. But, I get your point, though. Tim, Vino, 100%. Don't know why he got kicked out. Whatever, still is massive. Thank you very much. Don't worry about what happened. Just stay here. Vinay, you only introduce new players in a winning team, not a stale team, which is rock bottom. But we weren't rock bottom. I don't know, Vinay. I think you can introduce Cornet. He's an experienced Premier League footballer who's had a season with a team that struggled. What do you want him to do? Play in a team that struggles again? I think even one change would have made a difference. Cornet starting wouldn't have been a risk at the weekend. Cornet starting might have been at show. I'm not saying that we should have played every single new player. Kerr, like I say, was a shoo-in because Moyes had no choice. It was either going to be Johnson or Kerr. Cornet wouldn't have been a risk. I would have been happy to see Cornet start. And like I say, have a 3 just behind, even if it is Antonio, of Bowen, Cornet and Benrahma. What problems could we have caused them if those 3 players had started? Bremer, I've been a staunch defender of Souček for a long time because I believe in it's no fault of his own. But even I can see as a ghost in our games. Yeah, he hasn't played great at all. Good evening. I didn't say 9 o'clock. Did I say 9 o'clock? Sorry, Hammerette. I hope you're well. I don't know if the others have joined either. I haven't seen the Reese or Clive. Are they on? Probably not. Tim again. I'll be having serious words with my Liverpool colleague tomorrow. I said I will be upset with him if his team loses tonight. Quite frankly, I don't care if Liverpool lose, to be quite honest with you. Might give Klopp a bit of humility. Chris, looks like we're getting Klopp then. We'll have to do, I suppose. Mr. Mace, footballers should be able to accept valid criticism and respond to it. Problem is they're pampered children who can't handle it. Absolute fairies. I agree with you to some perspective on that. Vinay. All players must feel undermined by Moyes, the favourites, because they are not doing well in this stale Moyes system. Players not picked for good reason feel undermined. A 59-year-old does not change. I don't know about that. I'm 60 and I sometimes change things. Sometimes. Hammer it. Let's keep the faith. Back to the team. Back the team, and Moyes needs backing to stop being a stubborn arse. Absolutely. Garino, Stel. We don't tell players to learn from their mistakes. Zuma has literally made the same mistake 3 times, rushing out against Lyon, Frankfurt and Brighton. 0 coaching in my opinion. And Moyes is an ex-defender. I don't know. Good evening to you, Andrew. I hope you're well, mate. I thought that the performance yesterday was the worst since we lost to Man City in January 2017. Moyes needs to do something soon. It was probably one of the worst performances I've seen us play for quite a while. Good evening to you, Scarborough. I hope you're well. Liverpool have really struggled at the start of the season. They'll pick up just like we will. There you go. There you go. Max. I understand why David Moyes may not want to start Scamacca or Kerr, but Cornet is Premier League proven and doesn't need to be eased in. Absolutely agree. Good evening to you, Ahmed. Also looks like he's taken us into the chat. 3 games in. I don't buy that. We're 3 games in. We're 3 games in. Ahmed again. Really, we have 0 points, no goals with Villa, Spurs, Chelsea and Newcastle coming. Nothing positive. That's 7 games, potentially no points. And you think no relegation? Yes, I think no relegation. And you know what? It'd be just like West Ham to go out against Villa and Chelsea and Newcastle and get points from each of them. Honestly, I'm not saying that tongue-in-cheek. It will be just like us to get points off these teams. Learn to dig. Still, you want Antonio drop for 5 in 30, but Moyes wants to keep Moyes for... Yeah, I do. No. In all honesty, learn to dig. Yes, I do want Antonio dropped, but it's not been saying that now. I've been saying that for quite some time. Why? Because Antonio has been off the boil since November of last year. He had a couple of short spells, but since going out to play for Jamaica and in internationals, and let me just make it clear. I have absolutely no problem with any player wanting to play international football. No problem at all. But it doesn't look like he's recovered from that time on. He's been poor, but he's not the only one that's been poor. Other people have said Souček has been poor. Soufal hasn't been quite right. Even Lanzini on and off the boil. Fornals, even he has played one or two duff games. So it's not just Antonio. So yes, I do want Antonio dropped. I will not lie. Armit again. Really? Oh, yeah, you've done that one. Sorry. Mark Kerslake, good evening to you, mate. How are you? Hi, buddy. I was wondering where you had gone. I'm here. My Cypriot wife asked me the same question yesterday, and here you are. Well, I'm glad you found me. I'm glad a lot of people have found me. Spread the word for me, because it hasn't got to a lot of people that I've left the other channels. So this is the one for you, the West Ham voice. Good evening to you, Ralph. I hope you're well. Ralph's enjoying the sun. Where are you in the sun, mate? Just dropped in, watching Man United playing with their hearts running after everything. Hate to say it, but totally opposite to our boys on Sunday in front of our home ground. If Man United can do it, and look what a shambles they have been, we can do it as well. Huge. Don't think just changing the players is going to work. We need to find another way to play. But what about the 2-1 now? Salah scored. So on 81st minute. What formation do you want? I mean, in all seriousness, I'm actually asking, because I'd really like to know what formation you guys think we should be playing. Because in my mind, I think we are going to go to a back five. Going to be a 5-5-2-3-1 or whatever, or whatever it might be. You know, I think we'll go to a back five. But what about you guys? What formation would you like to see Moyes select? Because he won't go to, like I say, I think the worst thing is a 4-4-2. To be quite honest with you, I don't think we've got the players strong enough at the moment. The minute we get Ogbonna fully fit, the minute we get Ogbonna fully fit, then you can play a back four. The minute we get Dawson back, you can play a back four. Give Kerrer a bit more time and then play a back four. But as it stands right now, with the choices that we got, I would go with a back five. So you tell me, what would your preference be if it's not the 4-2-3-1 formation? Michael, rumor has it Moyes has just spotted at McDonald's, Wellbone Lane, Dagenham. He bought a McFlurry, but he's not willing to eat it. Let's scroll down. Foxes, good evening to you. Can go above Liverpool next week? There you go. Well, if they keep losing. 4-3-3 BD wants. 4-3-3. Yeah, great. But I maintain 4-3-3 with our current players at the moment, with Zuma in the form that he's in, would worry me. But yeah, good shout. DA, good evening to you, mate. Unless you count Cornet, we don't have any wing backs. I do count Cornet. And when Emerson comes in, he'll be another wing back. And we've got Ashby, young lad. I know he won't get game time, but he can also play wing back as well. Agreed. Soufal can't. Johnson can't. I accept that. But certainly Cornet can. Emerson, when he's signed, and it sounds like he'll be a signing on Tuesday, he can. So there's two there on the left side. Who else we've got? Raymond, good evening to you, mates. Looks like only club now in Premier, no points. Yeah, at the moment. Hammer it. Chelsea losing to Leeds, City drawing, Liverpool now losing. Loads of strange results so far, apart from Arsenal and Spuds. Sickening, I know, but morale needs to be lifted. It can't get any worse. It can't. It won't. It can't. Spencer, we will not beat Villa playing one-dimensional football. Yeah, I totally agree. It has to be changed without a shadow of a doubt. BD, extra man in midfield is needed and a fluid front three. I get that, but do you accept my point about our defence at the moment? Do we risk continuing with the back four when we've got a new player that started? We've got Zuma who's out of form. And it's there are no other options unless it's Johnson. And Johnson, with the greatest of respect to him, I admire him. He's told, you play here, you play there, you play there, you play there, and he does the job as best he can. But with the options that we got, do you stay with the back four? Let's scroll down a little bit more to try and catch up. What's that? We're 5-10 minutes behind. So, and do forgive me if I haven't got your comments up. Do forgive me. I'll try to get as many in as I possibly can. Steve, BCH, absolute disaster, mate. But is that Black Country? Are you in the house, mate? I hope you're well. But hey, going to Legoland tomorrow with the gang kids. Get it out of my system. We're all talking to each other, which is nice to see. Paul, passing is a massive problem and playing back all the time. We did play an awful. I mean, Zuma passed back from the halfway line at one point, didn't he? Glyn, is Moyes playing game of chicken till he gets better quality in? It seems like a battle of wills. If so, my money's on Moyes. Better quality in Scamacca. If he's not £35 million, you know, he's an Italian international. Surely that's a step ahead. Cornet, surely that's better than what we had with Yarmolenko, with the greatest of respect to Yarmolenko. Areola, all right, he was there last season, but still Areola, another decent footballer. Surely we've started to get better in, haven't we? Or are they no good? Are the players that we bought no good? Mice Collective. Moyes is stubborn and does not learn to by observing. If he was a mouse, he would have been in the cat's stomach ages ago. You do amaze me. Schmiegel. Evening still, evening everyone. What have I missed? I've been moaning, mate. I've done an awful lot of moaning. Black Country. Still, 5 points from the last 30 is not really good state, mate. Absolutely agree. I'm not denying that one bit. I'm not saying we've been in good form. Absolutely 100% agreeing. We've been off the boil for quite some time. The saving grace, I guess, is, we lost a lot of points at the tail end of last season. Thank goodness we're not in the same season, because we would be relegated with that form. But 3 games in, new season, plenty of time to get it right. And I think we will. It's going to take time. It may not be pretty at times, but I think we will get it right. But Moyes has got to change the system. Garino, think Moyes is at odds with the board as they didn't get the players he wanted. Is he, though? Because I think a lot of players that Moyes wanted didn't want to come. You look at Darwin Núñez. The minute he heard about Liverpool, he weren't coming to us. The other one that went to Liverpool, Luis, was going to call him Louis Vegas, but Luis Diaz. He heard about Liverpool. He didn't want to come. What's the guy from Frankfurt? His name's on the tip of my tongue. He knew that Juventus were in for him. He didn't want to come. Núñez fucked me right off. Núñez said, I want to play Champions League football, and next minute he signed for Wolves. But then with the Portuguese connection there, it almost is no surprise that he signed for Wolves. So aren't the board not backing him? The board have spent over £100 million. I think a lot of players that Moyes wanted didn't want to come to West Ham. What does that say about West Ham? I don't know. Are we not glamorous enough for some of these players at the moment? Perhaps not. Perhaps if we got into the Europa League rather than Europa Conference, you might have seen a slightly different outcome with one or two of these players. Look at, there's a number of players that Moyes wanted that didn't want to come to West Ham. I don't think it's on the board, Garino, to be honest with you, mate, because the board have spent money. DA, because if it was down to the board, we wouldn't have spent anything. DA, agree with Moyes' comments. Shouldn't publicly criticise players. Why does he do that? I don't know. Is it to get a reaction? I don't know. It's maybe had the wrong reaction, if that's the case. Juha, Antonio's missing his legs. Should not play him until the last 20 minutes. That's what I think, to be quite honest with you. I think Antonio's at the point in his career where he'd make a fantastic impact sub. Starting? No. Happy Hammerit. He's still so young, vice captain at 20, captain at 22 with no senior mentors. Then he's grown with over the last past 8 years. Feel sorry for him. He's learning, Declan Rice, and he's not always going to get it right. But I bet he'll be smiling at the end of the season. Well, not because he's going to go to Chelsea, but I bet he won't be this unhappy at the end of the season. Vinay, you have to think creatively to consider Antonio to be a top Premier League striker. I know this time last year, many tipped him for England. I didn't. Sorry, learn to dig. I didn't. Shane, Moyes will end up sucking the life out of Scamacca, Cornet, and the other. This is what I'm kind of worried about. I'm kind of worried about Moyes pissing new players off. And then people asked before, why would any other new player want to come to West Ham United if they see the current new players sitting on the bench? Emerson about to be signed, Vanaken about to be signed. I want to see these players in the first team. If it means having to put someone's nose out of joint, then so be it. Scamacca has got to get his start sooner or later, not just in the Europa Conference, but in the Premier League as well. Surely you pay £35 million for a player. Surely, how long is it going to take to bed them in? Learn to dig. Antonio's the most creative player reference, 1.13 chances per 90 minutes. For now, second 1.00. Last season's stats, great. But, that's because Antonio's been played over and over and over again. I wonder what Scamacca will get if he's played as regularly as Antonio. I can't agree with you, Learn to Dig. I'm really sorry, mate. I'd like to. But in this case, to say Antonio's our most creative player, and I like my stats as well. Schmiegel, it's important we beat Villa because we have Spurs and Chelsea after that. And like I said earlier on, we'd be just the sort of team that will get points off all three teams. That's the sort of team that we are, aren't we? Garino, in my opinion, injuries, lack of preparation, Moyes being stubborn and using his favourite players, probably a combination of factors to why we're at where we are, where we're at. Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go into the next part of the show because it is a little bit about players. Have I done I've done that one. Yeah, because I need a drink of water as well. So let's go into this bit. So let's start off with loan signing, shall we? And guess what? Arthur Masuaku made his mark at the weekend when he played the whole 90 minutes for Besiktas in their 4-1 win against Fatih Karagümrük. Fatty. The Super League clash saw Masuaku and his teammates take the lead on 17 minutes through former Burnley striker Wout Weghorst, and then with George, Kevin and Kudu doubling to the advantage on 34 minutes. Hammers loanee Masuaku would then make his mark on the fixture, registering his first assist since joining the club on a season-long loan. Bring him back. All is forgiven, Arthur. No, well done to him. Another player, let's get on to him in a minute. Another player we just loaned out as well is Thierry Neves from the under-21 side. Neves made his first appearance for Newport County at the weekend in the League Two. He's on a season-long loan. The 20-year-old has helped the Exiles come from behind to secure a 2-1 win against Tranmere Rovers at the weekend. So well done to him, and I hope your season-long loan goes well. Nikola Vlasic, he was in action at the weekend as well. He started in the first 11 for Torino against Lazio. It was a boring 0-0, and the less said about that, the better. Who else? Jacob McKnight, who's an under-18s keeper. He's out on loan to Harrow Borough. He succumbed to his first defeat since joining the club in the Southern Premier League South. Southern League Premier League South. Good grief. They lost 1-0 to Hanwell Town. And Nathan Trott, he's back out on loan again. Nathan Trott has joined First Division Danish First Division leaders Vejle for a season-long loan. The 23-year-old signed a new contract with West Ham recently, but he will spend this season out on loan with the Reds. The Reds, and there's a blue shirt there, but I'm reading what I've got in front of me. The 2023 campaign with the Reds, while he's holding a blue shirt. Oh no, actually it's the Goldie shirt. So yeah, of course that makes sense. So good luck to him as well. And Joseph Anang has also gone out on loan as well. He went from St. Patrick's Athletic in the Irish League. He's now playing for Derby County, but he didn't feature in the game against Fleetwood at the weekend. We wish all our loanees a successful season. Right, what about some of our injured players? Well, we saw Angelo Ogbonna play 60 minutes for West Ham against Viborg last weekend. It was great to see him leading the team out as one of the vice captains to Declan. Now, does that mean we might see him play any part in the Villa game? I think he'll play on Thursday. I think he'll be back again on Thursday and get maybe another hour under his belts as well. Will it be enough? I don't know. I think it's not a big enough test, is it, to really understand whether he's Premier League ready or not. But, to be honest with you, he played really, really well, Bonner, against Viborg on last Thursday. I think he was quite imperious in defence. And it wouldn't surprise me if he starts against Villa. He'll definitely start against Viborg on Thursday. And let's hope he plays enough minutes to sort of get himself Premier League ready again. Who else? Craig Dawson. We don't know what's going on here because every time we ask, we're told he'll be back soon. Well, we've been hearing he'll be back soon for most of pre-season. Dawson's only played half a game when he played a game. Who was it? We played the French team. Was it Rons or Lons or whatever it was that we played in pre-season? That's all the football he's had so far, and he's been missing ever since. This thigh injury apparently has come back again. There was talk only recently about him possibly having to have surgery, but all that's gone quiet as well. And every time we ask, we're told he'll be back soon. He'll be back soon. Will he be back this weekend? Look, I'll tell result. Manchester United have beaten Liverpool 2-1. Miracles do happen, people. There you go. Will he be back? Look, if he's back playing against Viborg on Thursday, I think that will be fantastic. But at the same time, saying that, just like Ogbonna, he hasn't had a lot of playing time. So will he be thrown in at the deep end, or will Ogbonna be thrown in at the deep end against Villa at the weekend? I think not, possibly. I think they'll both be missing. I'd love them to come back. I remember when we signed Dawson, and I was really quite vocal about, what are we doing? What are we doing signing a player like him? Now we can't do without him. And I would like to see him back sooner rather than later. In fact, I'd like to see both him and Ogbonna back sooner rather than later. Because quite frankly, if I had both of them back, I'd drop Zuma. I would, because I don't think Zuma is quite ready. So will he be back soon? I've got a feeling not. I think Ogbonna will be back sooner rather than Dawson, but I hope I'm wrong. Vladimir Sufal got knocked unconscious during the game against Brighton at the weekend, but it's reported that he'll be recovered in time for the game against Villa. But there's a 6-day, as you probably now know, there's a 6-day rule after you've been concussed and to make sure that you recover. So he'll see through that because we've got the Villa game on Sunday. He certainly won't be playing any part of the game against Viborg. But he probably won't train much either this week. I don't know what state he's in at the moment, but it's quite possible that even if he does train, he may not be picked for the game against Villa, and you may see Johnson playing at right back instead. Right, let's go back into your chat because the last part of the show is going to be all about transfers, and there ain't that many of them. I've cut them right down because I've taken all the shit stories out and focused on the ones that I know are much more likely to happen. But let's go into your chat before we do that. Paul, Cornet, Scamacca and Areola should start from here on in. Yes, I think so. I think we need to play Scamacca. I think we need to play Areola. I said earlier, I think Areola's distribution is much better than Fabianski's. Fabianski's been a great servant to West Ham United, but Areola, got to be our starter. Cornet, no reason not to start him, really. But you know what will happen? Cornet will start in place of Benrahma, and Benrahma has been our best player so far this season. That's what will happen. Hammer it. You told me 9 p.m. this morning. Tried to make me miss it, didn't you? That was this morning. I don't remember what I said an hour ago, let alone what I said this morning. Sorry, Hammer it. I probably did say that. Schmiegel, you have to question what goes on in training. Moyes has been criticised before from fitness coaches about his ancient training methods. The players don't look fit at all, in my opinion. They do look sluggish, don't they? And players did say, their legs were quite heavy from some of the pre-season training that they'd gone through. Moyes is an energy sucker of players under him, Vinay. He has no issues. He just sucks the life out of lots of players. Good evening to you, Drawd. Who is Lazaro? You'll soon find out, mate. Good evening to you, Patrick. Thoughts? Thomas Souček is not good enough. He needs replacing. I would say that for quite a few players, though. Martin, Hammerette, we're all a little bit safer because you're here with the blue spanner. We all are. That's very true. Ralph still enjoying himself under the sun. Moyes actually believes he is 100% correct. Well, a manager would. He needs to change tactics. Evening from sunny Spain. Lucky bastard. Mind you, it's really warm here, to be quite honest with you. But it's quite today. Looked like it was going to rain all day and then didn't. Patrick again. The left back that we're buying is not good enough. Vanaken isn't good enough. I don't know. Well, let's talk about the signings in a minute. Garino. Drawd, Brazilian attacking midfielder. No idea if he's any good at football, but I'm sure he can dance. Amma. Emerson will be put on the bench for 5 weeks to bed in. You're probably not wrong. Hammerette. Hans Wang. thinking will help our creativity. Slow and old, but better than our attacking midfielders. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. Yep, the game finished 2-1. Well done, Man United. Well done, Man United. Drawed. We should cash in on Rice and Bowen. Fuck me, no. They're so overrated, and it's only a matter of time until the big clubs realise this and no longer will be willing to pay big money for them. Are you a West Ham fan, Drawed? Be honest. I'm not. If you are, then forgive me. But to say that Bryce and Bowen are overrated, Amit. Moyes is a terrible coach, a dinosaur, same style tactics. He can't evolve. That's the problem with Moyes. I hope you're right, but we're being rubbish over 30 games. Not over 30 games, not that many. We have had some decent games, not all of them good, but no. Vinay. But I'm not sugarcoating it. We've not been good for a while. Vinay, don't worry, Stel. I will promote your channel on. Thank you. You do that. Ralph wants a 4-4-2. Raymond wants a 4-4-2. Even though what I said about our back line. But fair play. He'll never play 4-4-2. But he might play a 4-1-4-1. Quite possibly, yeah. Or, what else have we got here? Amma, the formation gets Antonio as a sub and not a regular. Yeah, I won't disagree with that. People saying 4-4-2, 4-4-2. Garino. Downs has a very high pass rate. Bring him in against Viborg. Could help us retain possession and be. I'd like to see that happen without a shadow of a doubt. Betty's Wallachs. Good evening to you. You can't drop Antonio. He's the only one player we have with his heart. He was our best player Sunday, just after. I don't think he was our best player on Sunday. I don't think any of our players can stand up to say they were our best players on Sunday. I can't pick one player out that I thought was decent. Mandy, back five means two pacey wing backs that can make an impact like March and Trossard. They used them well, didn't they? They used them well. Gary, good evening to you. We won't beat Villa. Rice needs to step up as captain. Rice, like I said earlier on, Rice is learning. I think he will step up as captain. It's a big learning curve for him. I don't say we won't beat Villa. I was there last season when we smashed them 4-1. All right, we're not the same team as we were then. I'm hoping that Moyes makes some changes. BD, can't play 4-4-2 in 2022. 4-4-1-1, maybe. Max, I believe Soufal could play as a left back. He did play as a left back against Viborg. But I think Johnson is better at that. But we're getting Emerson in, so why would we need him to play in that position? Stephen Hayes, good evening to you. Anyone remember when we played during COVID-19, back five and winning 3 and 4-0? Exactly. That's why I've got a feeling that's what he's going to go for from Sunday. I'm pretty certain he will change it and go with a back five. Amit, I'm not a Moyes fan, to be honest. I've never rated a Bruce-like manager of the 80s, never won a trophy, and in my opinion, he's reached his ceiling, keeps shooting himself in the foot. See, I think a lot of people think that, and I'm not saying that you think this, Amit, but I think a lot of fans who never wanted Moyes in the first place are actually quite pleased of what's going on at the moment, and almost willing Moyes to fail in order to say Moyes out. And I think Moyes, I'm hoping Moyes, I won't say I think, I'm hoping Moyes will turn it around. Garino, 3 at the back, 2 wing backs, 2 central midfielders and 3 up top. I like that. Stephen, but I like the idea of 4-3-3. Yeah, I do as well. When we get some of our defenders back, I'd say that would be fine. Hammerette, I bet that Fat Frank will be sacked first. Perhaps I should look a little closer to home, judging by the majority of fans. I think Gerrard is one likely to be sacked if he doesn't beat us at the weekend. You might see him as being another manager that might be out the door first time. Mandy, we now look like a Pellegrini team. Isolated wingers, leaving us empty in midfield. Can't disagree with that. I do. Huge. Need to play 4-4-2 with Antonio Scamacca up front. We great, but we just know that Moyes won't do it, will he? Kenneth, Moyes can make Scamacca to Haller number 2. This is what I'm worried about. This is one thing I'm actually worried about. The more he keeps isolating Scamacca up front, and if Scamacca doesn't run back and pick the ball up like Antonio does, then people are going to start going Haller number 2, when it won't necessarily be the player's fault himself. Kostic is the one I was looking for. Thank you, Anthony. Much appreciated. And like I said earlier on, someone asked the question: Are the board not? Is he upset with the board because they haven't got them? He hasn't got them. They haven't got him the players he wanted. But like I said, Kostic, Juve, Nunes and Diaz, Liverpool, other players, and the other Nunes that's gone to Wolves. Players haven't come to us not because the board haven't tried. Ironically, it's because they wanted to go elsewhere. Armour, 100 million buys nothing nowadays. That, in a way, is true. Vinay, Moyes is experimenting on how to destroy a young player on like Downs. What you do is sign them and tell them they're not good enough. That I was shocked. I was shocked that he said, I've not seen much. Really, really surprised. Amma, Kral is a great example. Wasted wages, played one game. Why bother? That's a good point. I agree with that as well. Fremer, I've lost my confidence, but I love you good. Glad you do. Hammerette, I honestly think we'll find our niche. Patient hammers, something we know all too much about. Yeah, I think yeah, I do. Mandy, and he's only 23 and you're talking about Declan. Absolutely. Declan will learn. Declan will learn. He's learning the hard way. He sure is. Okay, what am I up to? I'm 10 minutes behind. I'll tell you what, I'm going to catch up with the chat. Massive Uaku, Howard says, bring him back, I say. Epic. Masuaku is a Rolls Royce of a player. We need to bring him back as soon as possible. Bill. Rice said training was brutal. Is this why players are looking knackered? It's quite possible. Maybe the training has not been great, pre-season training. Still, I don't expect to be excusing the Big Mac in December. I will be with you 100% at that point, Learn to Dig. Totally and utterly. I will be with you without a shadow of a doubt. If we're in the same predicament by the time the World Cup comes, I'd be as worried as you. And I'll change my tune completely, and I will suggest that maybe Moyes has taken us as far as he can go. But I think Moyes, as stubborn as he is, I think he will start making changes. Learn to Dig. Why do you think Ben Johnson won't sign a contract? Same as Rice, he has signed a contract. We've extended it by 2 years. Declan, because he knows he's going elsewhere. Perkins, I'll be really honest with you. Perkins was never going to be good enough for senior team. And where is he at the moment at Leeds? Oh, yes, he's playing for the academy squad. I think Perkins jumped ship too soon, to be quite honest with you. But I get your point. I absolutely do get your point. If they're not seeing change and if they're not seeing progress, I understand what you mean. Perkins didn't sign because he thought it's funny because Perkins came from Charlton thinking that he was going to get into the first team quicker. And now he's realised he's not going to be in the first team quicker. He's jumped ship again to go to Leeds. And when he realises that he isn't going to get into the first team soon enough, I wonder if he'll jump ship again and probably end up in the Championship. Ben Johnson extended his his contract by 2 years. Declan, he knows he wants to move on, and it doesn't matter how much money we give him. He was never going to sign an extended contract. So we know that. Liverpool look bad. Did they look that bad? Good. I'm glad. It's not just us that are going to get it in the neck with all the newspapers. Paul, healthy Dawson and Noggy would provide a great boost. I totally and utterly agree. Trini, the only major problem with playing Oggy and Dawson is we cannot press high because of the lack of pace. That is very true, but then let them sit and defend, which is what a defender should do. I get your point, Trini, and welcome, by the way, but I absolutely agree with you. It means that we can't press, but then let the forward players do that. Let the attacking midfielders do that. Hold that defense line. I agree. Not a lot of pace there, but at least they'll be blocking those shots going in. Learn to Dig again. Yes, miracles do happen, but do you plan for them still? Yeah. Hammer's dad. Have to Zuma. He's a cripple without any confidence. Have to Zuma. It's Zuma. He's a cripple without any confidence. And will never be good in this country. Is that that's what's his name, isn't it? Hang on a minute, mate. Hang on a tick. Give me a second. You just got to give me 1 second. Is that Anthony? I hope you're well. Good to see you at the weekend, you and your boy. I'm trying to get his name. Oh, tell me his name. I've forgotten it. I'm really sorry. I've got it here somewhere. But anyway, nice to see you at the weekend, mate. Anthony and his boy, they came over from Ireland. They're standing next to me at the game, watching the game. I wish they saw a game that we won, but thankfully they saw the V-board game as well. I hope you're well, and thanks for joining, mates. Gary Lucas, Fab, the better keeper. No. Black Country. Guys, wouldn't like a bite of them choppers, would you? A bite of what choppers? What are you talking about? Hammerette. 6'5", hard as fuck, gets the fans excited. Stick that you lingered up your ass because we're West Ham United. Nice song. Let's scroll down. I'll tell you what, we'll stop there and we're going to go into the last part of the show, which, of course, is all your favourites, all about transfers. Right, so let's get into the final part of the show, and it's all about transfers. What do you want? Come on in, say hello to everyone. There you go. Say good evening, Sushi. That's Sushi. Yeah? Do you want to say meow? No? Go on then, off you go. So, final part of the show, transfers. And Emerson, first up. It looks like Emerson is about to be our 7th signing of the season. He's had his first medical today, and all going well. He should have the second part of his medical on Tuesday, and it looks like he will be announced as our 7th signing of the season. Now, I know a lot of people are not that enamored with this player. 28 years of age. They're calling him a bit part player at Chelsea, etc., and not good enough for West Ham United and so on. I would argue that he probably is good enough. He's got Premier League experience. He's got international experience, Champions League experience. Italy, I know they didn't make it in the World Cup for this World Cup, but they're still not a bad side. Let's not forget he was in the team that beat England in the final of Euro 2020 as well. You know, I think he's a pretty decent player. 28 years of age, good experience, etc. And I think, excuse me one second. You might be hearing the TV in the background. Unfortunately, I've had to shut the door. So, 28 years of age, with all this Premier League experience, etc., I think he would be. I think he's exactly the sort of player that we need at the moment. You know, I think he'll offer us different options. He can play as a traditional left back, he can play as a wing back, and he can play left midfield. So there's options there. And I know a lot of you are going to say, but didn't we buy Cornet for that? I think Moyes has got different ideas for Cornet. I think Cornet is going to not only play on the left side of the attack, but I think maybe you might start seeing Cornet throughout the season, maybe playing just behind the front man. You might see Cornet playing out on the right-hand side, you know, pushing Bowen into the middle and have Bowen as a striker and Cornet going out on the right side. So, yes, I think there is a place for Emerson Palmieri, and I think he's a pretty decent player. He's not the sort of player that we all want. I know a lot of people were talking about why didn't we get Hickey and this player and that player, etc. Who knows? Maybe again we tried, but we couldn't get those ones over the line. Look, the deal is confirmed at 13 million plus 2 million add-ons. Personal terms have been agreed. Like I said, he's here. He's had his first leg of his medical today, with the second part being arranged, on my understanding, is for Tuesday. And all going well, he should be announced as a West Ham player on Tuesday itself. Look, born in Santos, Sao Paulo and Brazil, developed through the youth ranks at Santos from the age of 15. In 2014, he was loaned to Italian club Palermo. And after playing he played as a backup left back. And then he joined the following season. He joined Roma on loan and was back up to of all people, Lucas Dean. And midway through the season, Roma made that deal permanent for £1.8 million. He made 47 senior appearances for Roma before joining Chelsea for £18 million in January 2018. He spent 4.5 seasons there in West London, just making only 71 appearances. There's been a lot of competition for those places, and even more now that Cucurella has been signed and so on. But like I said earlier, he's played in Champions League football, he's played at Premier League football, and he's only had just one or two serious injuries in his career. So he's not a player that's going to be out injured all the time. In 17-18, he had a cruciate ligament rupture. And in 1920 season, he missed 8 games with a hamstring injury. But other than that, pretty much injury free. Like I said, he's a versatile footballer. Last season, he was sent out on loan to French side Lyon. And if you remember, he played against us in the Europa League. He's an international, Italian international, having played 27 games already. He did represent Brazil up to the age of 17, but he changed national allegiances in 2017 when he gained Italian citizenship. Look, I think he's all right. I think he's exactly the sort of player that we need. Moyes has been sort of like alluding to looking for players in top clubs that maybe he can resurrect careers of. Why not Emerson Palmieri? I think he'll be a decent signing for us, so long, of course, as he plays. If he doesn't play, then I'd be pretty pissed off as well. And I think he will make a difference. He will offer different options. I've already said, about playing him as a left back, left wing back, etc., etc. And I alluded to earlier on, maybe on Sunday. I mean, if we sign him on Tuesday, he'll be eligible to play in both the Viborg game as well as the game against Villa at the weekend. And if if we do sign him, if we do play him, that would allow Moyes, like I said, whilst we've got Ogbonna and Dawson out at the moment, it will allow Moyes to play 3 at the back and play Emerson Palmieri as a wing back. Okay, that's next one. So we should be seeing confirmation of his signing on Tuesday if all goes well. Next up, Hans Vanaken, midfielder from Club Brugge. I'm sure you've read the stories many, many times. And I was really dismissive of it. Maybe even last week, I can't remember, when the story came back up again. The reason why I was is because something like 2 years ago, we were interested in him. It never happened. Then he signed an extended contract with Club Brugge, and I thought, well, that's the end of it. So when the rumours came up again this time round, I was like, again, but now it looks pretty serious, and it looks like he will be our 8th signing of the season. Contracted to Club Brugge till 2025, valued at up to 15 million, but we believe that the offer is a bit less than that. It's probably around 9-10 million with a few add-ons. 29 years of age, he'll be 30 this month. And so he's not a spring chicken, to be quite honest with you. He's actually come out and he said publicly he wants to join West Ham United. The club are now resigned to losing him, and you can see why. He's been quite a prolific footballer for them over the years. He was he had the Golden Boot, won the Golden Boot twice in his career at Club Brugge in 2018 and 2019. But since the 2019-20 season onwards, he's been asked to play a very, very different role for Club Brugge in the centre of the park, but more as a playmaker rather than the goal scorer. Look, he started his career with PSV Eindhoven at the age of 10. After 6 years, he moved to Lommel United in the Belgian second division. His standout performances caught the eye in 2013 of Club Lokeren, who signed him for a fee of 158 grand. Lokeren now no longer exist. They went bankrupt in 2020. But in 2015, after spending a couple of seasons at the Belgian club, making 92 senior career appearances, scoring 22 goals and 21 assists, he moved to Club Brugge for a fee of £4 million. Vanaken has gone on to make 344 senior appearances for the club, scoring 102 goals and 72 assists. That's not bad, is it? That's a goal in every 5 games. That's an assist in every 7. Oh, sorry, a goal in every 3 games, and an assist in every 5. Look, like I said, our interest goes back quite some time. And like I said, last time we were interested in him, he ended up signing an extended contract. He's still got 3 years left of his contract. He's close to turning 30 years of age. And he knows himself, this is going to probably be his last opportunity to get to play for a Premier League club. Look, all right, he may not be the player that we want in terms of age, but he's going to offer us something, again, a bit like Emerson will offer us something different on the left side. I think Vanaken will offer us something different here. Look, when he was playing as a more advanced player, more attacking player, like a number 10, he was playing from the left side of midfield, but now he plays a much more supporting role. He's likely to provide Moyes with options alongside Declan. We know he's going to likely to be the replacement for Souček. That sort of goes without saying. But he's got what Vanaken has got. He's a very skillful footballer, but he's got a great passing ability. Very decent with pass accuracy rate of 87%. Bettered only by Declan Rice last season. If you compare the stats, if you can see those, I've got Declan, Vanaken, Souček, and I've thrown Lanzini in there as well. And I'll tell you for why. Because when Souček or Declan have not been available, it's been Lanzini that's been utilised as a sort of a central midfielder, playing from deep and picking the ball up and running with it. That's what Vanaken does, and that's why I've included Lanzini in this. Look, last season, this is league form only. He played 39 games, over 3,200 minutes played. He scored 11 goals last season compared to Declan's 1, compared to Souček's 5, and compared to Lanzini's 5. Shot accuracy, the better shot accuracy of all of them at 55%, 9 assists. So playing as a deep-lying playmaker, he's still got 11 goals and he's still got 9 assists. Pass attempts, the highest, double what anyone else has provided last season. Okay, pass accuracy is more for Lanzini, but the number of attempts that Vanaken has made means that he's a forward-thinking footballer. He's going to pass that ball. He's going to control the ball. Take it out of take it from midfield through into the attacking areas. He's 6'5", so you would expect him to have a good aerial dual success rate as well. Look, his stats are good. Everyone's going to say, well, it's only the Belgian league. Yeah, it is only the Belgian league. But when you do it consistently for the number of years that Vanaken has been doing it, I get why Moyes wants him. Is it short term? Yes, it is. Yes, this is a 2 seasons, maybe at the most 3 seasons. I don't know what the deal will be. He'll probably sign a 3-year contract with West Ham United. Is it short term? Yes, it is. We've also got to consider, unfortunately, that when Declan leaves at the end of this season, we're going to need a talisman in there. And Vanaken, the mature, you can still do the business at that age in the middle of the park. So he'll have the maturity to be able to carry the team forward until Moyes gets yet another player in that will be long-term replacement for Declan. So it's a smart move from Moyes. It's going to solidify. We talked about no creativity. He's a very creative footballer. We talked about no passing. He's a good passer of the ball. We talked about control in the middle of the park. The game against Brighton at the weekend, there was a sea of space in the middle of the park. It was unbelievable when the ball kept being played forward. There was no one there. Declan was on his own, or Souček was out of place, or whatever. And one thing that Vanaken will do, he will help fill that midfield area. So he's a clever player. He's not fast, but a playmaker. Trevor Brooking wasn't the fastest footballer in the world, but he was a good playmaker. And this is the kind of mold that Moyes wants in Vanaken. He wants someone that can make in the middle of the park, someone that can control it, someone that can pass well, someone that can pick out a decent pass, etc. And I think that's what we're going to get with him. And from my understanding, he'll probably be signed before the end of the week as well. Will he be signed in time for the game against Villa? I don't know, but things are moving quite rapidly. Apparently, he came out of training today in order to continue discussions about his transfer. So it looks like it's going to be sooner rather than later. Right, next up. Well, here's one. Lazaro of Flamengo in Brazil. Look, interesting story. Apparently, we've made a £6 million bid for him, but Flamengo have told us to go and do one and come back with a better bid. Look, he's a Flamengo protege. He's been with them since around the age of 15. He's meant to be, as they all are, he's meant to be the next big deal, 20 years of age. We think he's worth about 6 million. Flamengo think he's worth double that. He's contracted with them till 2025. He's a versatile young footballer. Can play in attacking midfield. He can play as a second striker. And a lot of European clubs are apparently interested in him. I like the fact that David Moyes, if this story is true, is going for a player like this. Will he be a player for the now? No, of course he probably wouldn't. But he's the sort of player that we should be looking at for the future, without a shadow of a doubt. He's made 56 senior career appearances to date, scoring 8 goals with 8 assists. And he's considered to be the future Lanzini. He plays in a similar sort of style, a similar sort of way. Of course, being Brazilian, he's got an awful lot of flair as a footballer. He's quite creative. But one thing about him, in comparison to players of similar ilk, is that he's got a good passing range as well. So there's a lot of players that want to take on players, etc., show their skills. But this young lad apparently is a good passer of the ball as well. Look, his agents are going to be fully aware that there are a lot of clubs interested. If West Ham can come up with an offer, a tempting offer, then who knows? The only thing that worries me is where he sees himself as a footballer at this stage in his career. You know, does he think he's going to come to a team like West Ham and walk straight into the team? Because if he does, I don't think his agents are going to want him to come to West Ham United. But if he thinks he can come to West Ham and learn and bide his time, then I think we should bite their hand off and take him. Right, last up. Is that last up? Yes, it is. Last up. Ainsley Maitland-Niles of Arsenal. Yeah. Did I take the A out deliberately? No. I have to have one spelling mistake in my show, haven't I? Look, a lot of people are saying, why would we want Maitland-Niles? You know, what's he going to bring to West Ham United? Surely he's not going to be any better than what we've got. I don't know. Look, Maitland-Niles is in his last year of his contract at Arsenal. He's valued at something like about £10 million, 24 years of age. He's been out on loan a number of times since his career at Arsenal. He's clearly not favoured at Arsenal at the moment. He's not getting into the first team, not even getting on the bench. He wants more game time. I think Arteta has used him as a right back, but he's a player. He can play at right back, but his preferred option is to play in central midfield or the right side of midfield. Apparently, talks are underway. Would I like him? I don't see why not. He's another player that maybe David Moyes is thinking, you know, is a player that I can resurrect the career of. Why not? And maybe Moyes is not just thinking about the here and now. Maybe David Moyes is also thinking about the future, end of next season as well, because we've got a number of players that are going to be leaving the club because of age, because of their contracts expiring, etc. So maybe give him enough game time and give him a decent contract. Why not? Is he a bad player? I don't think he's necessarily a bad player. It won't be to it many people's cup of tea, but he's certainly not the worst player in the world. Would I want him? I wonder if Maitland-Niles himself would want to turn up at West Ham, knowing what happens with players, that they don't get game time. And I guess that's the biggest issue of all, isn't it? Right. There were loads of other stories. There were stories about, let's take that out. The stories about Reguilon of Tottenham. And I think that story only came up because I think a few social media columns weren't sure if the Emerson deal was going to happen. Now that the Emerson deal is happening, the Reguilon story is probably not happening. There is another one, Bednar from Southampton, is it? I think we were interested in. I'll talk about them in another show later on this week or maybe on Tuesday. But those are those four players here that I've mentioned already. So we'll go back. Emerson looks like he'll be a signing by Tuesday. Vanaken could be a signing maybe at the same time or maybe on Wednesday or Thursday. Lazaro, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to actually go for a player like that. But we've got to find out what their ambitions are, the players' ambitions and the agents' ambitions. If they're looking at a European club where he can learn, then yes, why not at West Ham? And then Ainsley Maitland-Niles, why not? I think he's a half-decent footballer. I think he can offer us some depth, strength in depth. And why not go for him at all? Other players, stories. Will we get anyone else? The only other one really is Broja. You know, even the Gallagher story has sort of gone quiet, and all the other players in Chelsea at the moment have all gone a bit quiet. But Broja, let's see what happens with him. Gallagher's getting starts now, so I'm not so sure that Chelsea will want to lose him. But Broja could still be a last minute on the cards. Right, let's go into your comments to see what we've got before we leave. Scarborough, how do these new players' profits know imminent signings aren't going to be good enough? Emerson played in European football. That's what I just said, mate. Absolutely. GP. Bowen's form is worrying, but he's a hard worker. Maybe Danny Dyer's turned his head. I think I think when Moyes talked about a player coming back, not being fully fit, being a bit overweight, I think he was probably alluding to. I thought it was Zuma. I think maybe it might have been alluding to Bowen. Garino, but we know he will turn good sooner rather than later. Garino, it is said that if you look Klopp directly in the mouth on a sunny day, you will burn your retinas. Oh, we're talking about his teeth. That's what people were talking about, teeth earlier on. Amma, Declan is a new father. Just another excuse? No. You know, when you're a new dad, your focus is elsewhere. I've done it. I know. Vinay. Areola, man of the moment. Areola for me on Sunday, despite many provocations, he did not lunge at Moyes. Did not lunge at Moyes. Why would he lunge at Moyes? Oh, I see what you're saying. MJ. Johnson is better than Soufal in any position, to be honest. I like Johnson. Up and coming footballer, young lad. He, play at left back, you'll play at left back. Play at centre back, you'll play at centre back. He's even played a holding midfield, played at right back, etc., which is a natural position. I like the boy. I think he will only get better. Let's scroll down a bit. Fremer. As much as I was back my countrymen, beating Viborg will not say anything about how we do in the Premier League. No, you're right. You're right, because Viborg are not that standard, not that level, are they? But we've got to beat them, and we didn't really beat them convincingly last week. But let's hope we put a good performance in on Thursday. David, we miss Oggy. He's 34, I know, but if he can get over his injuries, he's got cultured left foot. We've missed him since his injury. Still our best defender by far. Great at set pieces like Dawson, Bigot. Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. I think, you know, when people are talking about our form and how our form has sort of nosedived, does that coincide with Oggy? He was imperious last season. He has been for several seasons in a row, but he was imperious last season until he got his injury. That was a massive, massive blow for us, to be quite honest with you. Good evening to you, Frankie Rule. This won't happen. We finished two good seasons in the top 8. Then we lost 3 games and everyone goes mad. Come on, it's exactly what I'm saying. You know, I totally agree with you. I think people are way over it. There was a show on earlier today about Moyes out. It was like, he's got to go. Really? Really? After 3 games? I know the form from before, but thank goodness this is the new season. Thank goodness that we start again. There's plenty of time to get it right and get it changed. Amma, Skamakan looks more lively than Allaire. I liked Allaire. Scarborough, Cornet, Ashby wing backs, and a back 3 of Zuma, Kerr, and Ogbonna. I don't think Ogbonna will be back in time, but I reckon Cornet and Ashby, I said that earlier, I'd like that. And then Zuma, Kerr, and Creswell, because I don't think Ogbonna is quite ready yet. Martini, good evening to you. To me, it looks like we've gone from strengthening the first 11 to rebuilding the squad. How did that happen? We've had to. We've had to. You think about the number of players that have left. We've kind of had no choice. And I just got a feeling that Moyes is spending the money even for next season, you know, to get the players in and bed them in. And it isn't just about the first 11, is it? And this is what worries me about some of the comments that Moyes has been making, you know, about taking our time, you know, and we know we've got to keep going as we are at the moment. Let me get those comments up. And, you know, he said something like, you know, we've got to look at that as well and decide when the changeover time is. So he's thinking about certain players in the first 11 at the moment and when he can change them over for other players to take over. It's not just about the first 11. I actually think we did have to rebuild the squad, to be quite honest with you. Ralph, still enjoying the sun. I was never a fan of Moyes, but I would prefer him to succeed. But Everton fans will tell you he is stubborn. Just change tactics. That's all we ask. Agree. Good evening, Fatakis. God Diganis. Hola, Gala. Galispera. We will be okay. We will be okay. Learn to dig. Oh, look, still making excuses for the big man. I'm not making excuses for anyone. I have slagged off Moyes quite a bit tonight. You know, I've said that his tactics are wrong. I've said that his selection is wrong as well. But, you know, Moyes is his own man. So I'm not making excuses for anyone. You know, I think I've said quite a lot and I hate being negative. Scarborough. Moyes hoping his players will step up when in the face of criticism. Look at Luke Shaw with Mourinho. Yeah, it doesn't work that way for a lot of players. Hammer it. I don't hate Moyes just yet, but the same old plan A doesn't work. Go back to plan A or plan B. It's annoying. Premier starting 11 so far has been depressed. I wasn't happy with the guys that were picked at the weekend, but I was kind of hoping. I said before, I'd hope that you know, last season they were good enough to put on good performances. Not this time. Garino. More excited by Callum Marshall. Kid looks good. He does. Perkins. Good luck, mate. Callum Marshall, I don't want to say it, but looks the dog's bollocks. Scott, our biggest issue is our midfield. Always over. It certainly was at the weekend, mate. Absolutely shocking. Dean, if we see a starting lineup that looks very similar to the ones we've seen so far, what will your thoughts be? I'd be very. I won't lie, Dean. I'd be very worried if Moyes, after buying all these players, continues to pick players that are out of form. I'd be extremely concerned. I admit that. And I think a lot of us would. Daniela, I don't think Rice will go to Chelsea. Talking to a friend who is a Chelsea fan, we both said not sure Rice will get a regular place. That's an interesting comment. I think there's something else in the pipeline with Declan, and it may not be in this country. Viva España. Anyway, let's move on. Vanaken is another Souček. Is he, Schmiegel? He's I think he's a little bit more polished than that. I think people are looking at him for height. They're about the same. Souček 6'4", Vanaken is 6'5", and I think people are going automatically. Same. They're quite different players. Quite different players indeed. Hammer, too many players are out of form at the same time. That's a big part of our problem, and you're absolutely right. That's what I said in the earlier part of the show. Michael Levy, what are we up to? 20 minutes behind. Michael Levy, the subject came up on X's podcast earlier of Sullivan undermining Moyes, bringing Warburton in, whispers of Downs and Cornet not being Moyes signed. I think, honestly, I don't think that's true. I'm not so sure, I think we like these conspiracy theories. We like to say that Sullivan continues to there was the whole thing about the player from Barcelona, the striker from Barcelona, when apparently Moyes was where Sullivan was trying to force the player onto Moyes. And it turned out all it was, that player was being offered. What's his name? I'm shit with names. That player was being offered to a number of clubs, and agents approached Sullivan and went, "This player's available. Any interest?" Sullivan asked Moyes, "Any interest?" Moyes went, "No, thanks." That was the end of it. I think we like to make up these stories, and when there's probably not a lot of truth in it. Warburton was, Sullivan knows him absolutely. Probably had a word with Sullivan. Had a word with Moyes and said, "Would you like him to be in?" And Moyes could have turned around and said no, and that would have been the end of it. Downs and Cornet, I don't know. I hope that isn't true. I think we like to rumor monger, and make things up that aren't necessarily true. I'm not suggesting X is wrong, to be quite honest with you, and he may know more than I do. Well, he's in the know, isn't he? But I think a lot of these stories sometimes come up and there's not a lot of substance to them. Scarborough. Vanaken is much more progressive than Souček. Have you watched him play, Schmiegel? He is much more progressive. I agree. Mice. Still, the average British has 22 kills into total 130 million kills. In Australia, 100 million. Sim was triggered by this. Have you had one too many, Mice? Garino. Rumours of interest in Gallagher being more likely than Brozier. I think Moyes wanted both, without a shadow of a doubt. I think Moyes has got an interest in quite a number of the Chelsea players, but it looks like Gallagher is settling in nicely at Chelsea. He's getting game time now. I don't think even he would want to go, and if he does well, I don't think Tuchel would want to let him go. Good evening, Conan. I hope you're well. Genuinely feel unwell looking at our fixture list. But then, look, when was it? Was it last season or the season before last when we looked at our first 6 games and went, oh, shit, no points? Look, we're the sort of team that will go, oh, shit, and then come out with maybe 7 points in our next 3 games. Could happen. It could happen. Let's go down. Patakis. Moyes has to play the new players. He's got to certainly play 1 or 2 of them without a shadow of a doubt. Does she now? I hope you haven't given them to her too much. Let's scroll down. Vinay, Fatakis, Moyes won't play the new players. They're not ready. Areola not ready after more than 1 year. Skamaka will start 2024. It does worry me. That does worry me. Scarborough. Emerson is a good player and a clever buy to rotate with a better left back once we phase Creswell out. Yeah, good call. Hammerett. Emerson was asked to be recalled 3 times whilst at Lyon, but said no, even though he would have got into the Chelsea starting lineup due to injuries. He'd said no because he'd be at Lyon for a year. Yeah, and good for him. He knew that the minute any of those injuries were back, he'd be on the bench again. So good on him, and you're not a shit player if Chelsea want you back, are you? Garino, in other news, I got stung by a bee, wasp. Didn't see the cheeky bastard for the first time in years. This is it, isn't it? It's the happy hour. Now, when I've done the main element of the show, you lot start going into your bizarre comments, etc., and end up making me piss myself. Chippy, good afternoon. Good evening to you. Why are we signing the left back when we needed? Why are we signing the left back we have needed for the last 2 years? 2 weeks into the start of the season, has Moyes only just noticed Crazy is willing in spirit, but his legs have gone? I think we have gone for other left backs. I actually really do. I think we've gone for other left backs. We just haven't succeeded in getting them. MJ Gallagher to replace Fornals. I like Fornals. I think more to replace Lanzini. I love Lanzini as well, but I don't know. I don't think Gallagher's coming, to be quite honest with you. Let's move down. Let's scroll down. Hans Van Sheringham. Good luck to him, Chip. Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. He's not the age that we want, but if he can do the business for a couple of seasons, why not? Vinay, he wants to play in the Premier League and wants to come to West Ham. What's the connection? He is a future bench warmer. Vanaken, I think he'll actually start. Excuse me, Mandy, good player, but zero Ceylon. And what with the pace in the Premier League, good for 2 years max. It's a short-term signing, without a shadow of a doubt. Vanaken is a short-term fix, without a shadow of a doubt. Good evening to you, Tommy. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. At least Vanaken brings something we have zero of, creativity. I agree. Glyn, Ten Hag wears no socks. Crazy guy. I don't like wearing socks. Actually, I'm going to ask you all a weird question. When you get home, this is to the lads. When you get home, you take your shoes off. Do you then take your socks off, or do you take your trousers off first? Or do you take your socks off to let your feet breathe? I want to know, because I'm in an argument with my mates. Because I get home, I take my shoes off, take my socks off to let my feet breathe before I even think about taking my trousers off. I know I'm doing what you lot do now. So I want answers, please. Shoes and socks off first, or shoes and trousers off first? Epic. Vlasic was the best player in the Russian league. I don't think this geezer is going to make it in the Premier League. Vanaken, I think he's a very different player. Very different player, to be honest with you. I hope he hits the ground running. Mandy, he will only see Antonio head down the wings running and Benny Man marked. He will only see Antonio ahead down the wings running and Benny Man marked. Vanaken, we will have to other players he's got to find, isn't he? Snaky, good evening to you. Vanaken provides us options on the ball, which is required as most of our players seem isolated in the middle due to Souček always trying to make a run into the box. Good shout. Good point. Huge. At the start of the transfer window, we would have been disappointed with Emerson and Vanaken, but we are now in the region of panic buys. I don't necessarily think they're panic buys, but I would agree with you. They weren't necessarily first choices. That I would agree with. Garino, hit the like. People, if you're new to the channel, hit the like, subscribe button and the bell notification. Thank you very much. If you don't like it, well, I'm sorry, but hit the like, subscribe and bell notification anyway. Thank you for that, Garino. Much appreciated. Snaky, I find it hard to believe that he's going to replace Souček, though, unless we switch to a 3 in the midfield. That's a possibility, but I still think that once we get our full all our defenders back, then quite possibly he could go for a 4-3-3. Without a doubt. Yeah, that's quite possible. Snaky again. If it turns out to be decent, 3-man midfield, Vanaken, Rice and Souček could be saucy. Absolutely. Irish Tommy. This Lazaro bid has David Sullivan written all over it. That's possible. That's possible. Schmiegel. And I said 5 minutes ago, I don't think Sullivan is interfering. Schmiegel. But no, is he? It could be a Newman scout that Newman could have scouted him. There's a possibility there. We do have a scouting system now. Schmiegel, Flamengo have a lot of class players. They won't sell any of their players cheaply. Yeah, but is 10 million cheap? James Fitzgerald, Vanaken is fantastic in the air. Easily would be the best header of the ball at West Ham. He does more than that, but you're absolutely right there as well. Black Country, David Wankerman Sullivan. Claret and Booze Boys. The guy makes every other pass with a Rabona. He might do. You never know. You never know. Daniela. If Rice had a bad season, he changes. If Rice has a bad season, he chances of moving going down and still don't think it nailed on. All depends on how we do and what other clubs want. Yeah, if he has a bad season, I wonder if many clubs will then turn around and say, who knows? We don't want him. Claret, Viva España. Claret and booze. He'll play a grand total of 12 minutes while he adapts to the Premier League from the bench. Stop being so boring, Nick. Garino. Rumor is we've offered Jason Denayer a contract, defender on the free. Rumor is rumor because no, haven't heard anything about that. Scarborough, Maitland-Niles, right wing back, Emerson, left wing back. You said it. You said it. Schmeigel, Denayer would be a good signing. I don't think there's any truth that I've not. I know last week I've had him in my show last week when the rumor was out, but I've heard nothing since. But then that doesn't mean the rumor's not true. Hammerett, not likely to get game time, and we're sitting at the bottom of the table. Great selling point. Don't start buying into all this negativity, Amaret. Trini, if it's true that players perceive they would not get game time signing for us, that's got to be a massive problem. That I would agree with. Without a shadow of a doubt, I would agree with it. You've got to hope that Moyes has got to start mixing it up and seeing beyond just 11 players. Vinay, bottom of the table, no game time, gets lagged off by Moyes in press conferences, thousands for bench warming. I would sign as well. Ralph. What worries me is we are a team of giants. So does that mean some tactics out to wing and cross it? We were doing that on Sunday. You know, how many times did I see either Fabianski or Zuma just pumping it all the way up as if we didn't have a midfield to talk about? That was really, really, really frustrating because most of the balls that we pumped up, Antonio hardly went. Oh, sorry, he's still here. Learn to dig. Antonio hardly wins the ball these days, unfortunately. You know, people have worked him out as well. And it was awful. But no, I don't know. Vanaken is a player that he can play. He can play on the ground. He can play decent football. Good evening, Luke. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. H&O Productions, good evening to you as well. How on God's earth are we to sign these players knowing they won't come in to play straight away? Plus, these players need a new system to play in. A lot of people are saying the same thing. I said the same thing as well. I agree with you. If he buys them, he needs to play them. GP, didn't Carlton Cole say his newborn inspired him to work harder, and that's when he got in the England team? Don't know. Going back a bit there. Good evening to you, Efran from Omaha. Thank you for joining, mate. Got a few people from America in. Nice one. Thank you. Let's scroll down. David. A deal for Aubameyang to Chelsea is getting closer. Does that open a door for Broja? Quite possibly. Watch this space. Broja, I don't think we're done in the transfer window yet. We could get 2 players in this week, maybe even 3, if Maitland-Niles is the rumour is true. And then we might still get a player or 2 on loan. Broja will be interesting. He'll be fucked off though if he's on the bench. You know, Skamaka, Broja. Oh, Antonio's starting. Yeah. Mandy. We have a limpy centre-back that thinks he's a Maradona, and the other centre-back is 4'9". He's short, isn't he, Kera? 6'1", but he looked quite slight and short. But fuck me, Zuma completely fucked up for that first goal. Trini. Moyes has to learn, rotate and change. Rotate. This is it. Other managers do it, you know, and that's what Moyes has got to do. You know, you keep your core, but you rotate certain players, certain area, change the style, etc., when you want to play a different way against different teams and so on. If he does not, we will struggle and his job will be in question. I'm not for Moyes out, but I agree with you. He will, you know, his job will be on the line, you know, if he doesn't change things. Yeah, Scarborough. He doesn't look that tall, does he? But he's 6'1", Kera is. Howard. Do the Borg, teach Gerrard's boys a lesson. Do the Borg, teach Gerrard's boys a lesson, then give the Yidders a slap. Everyone's happy. Good evening, Mihailo. How are you? Hello, everyone. Just want to say I fully expect a slow start, but please keep the faith. The gaffers deserves it, as well as the boys up the irons. We'll get it right. I'm convinced we will. Yorkshire. Is Maitland-Niles not Maitland-Miles? Love the show still. It could be. What did I say? Let's see. What did I say? I said Maitland-Miles. There you go. I did. I might have pronounced it as Niles. What else have we got here? Good evening, Pat Holland. How are you, mate? We are rock bottom after going to take a massive change in strategy to start climbing up table. I agree. It's going to need something a bit different. I do not disagree with that, and I've been, I have said that throughout the show. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? You're all talking about people's heights, and is Lanzini about 5'3"? It's almost as tall as you, Hammerette. Trini, why are people so hung up on Kerr's height when he was bought for pace and ball playing skills? How many teams in the Premier League actually continue pumping long balls? We do. From the centre backs heads anyway. We did it on Sunday and it was really irritating. Ian, assuming Vanaken and Emerson will sign, we will have spent over 125 million in this window. I'm not a Sullivan fan, but nobody can say they haven't backed the manager. I totally agree. They have absolutely backed the manager. You can't say that they haven't. Hammer it. City, we expected a loss. Forest, we were unlucky. I agree with both of those. Brighton, we were just shit. Onwards and upwards. It really, yeah, and I agree. I agree. We were terrible on Sunday. We were, but we didn't play that badly. We were very unlucky against Forest. On another day, we would have scored 3 or 4 goals. Foxes, we're just so happy about Masuaku for an assist or for not being here. Roy, we're going to need a bigger boat to get up this league. More balls. Have faith. Have faith. Have faith. Are we down to the bottom? No, we're not. Goodness me. Oh, right. Okay. You're now going into the question I asked you. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down. I put on him socks. You have to say that again, Juha. Comfy pants first. Trini, trousers off first and socks stay on. Socks. How can your socks stay on when you've been sweating all day? Patrick, smelly feet and stuff. No, this is it. That's why I don't have smelly feet. Ralph, too hot to wear socks here. Here you go. Steve, shoes off first, then socks, wear short. There you go. Steve's with me. Bra first is the right answer. Scarborough. Trousers off first, socks stay on. Take them off in bed. Take them off. What, even during the summer? Surely not. Garino, everything off and socks stay on. Alan Partridge style. James, I'm always nude for your show, Stella. Oh dear. Powell and Van, shoes, trousers, shirt, singlet. This. I wish I hadn't asked now. I really do. What's the time? 10:02. What am I up to? Oh, I'm nearly there. I'll tell you what I'm going to do before I go. I'm going to do a very, very quick summary of the show. For those of you who came late, I'm going to give you a little treat and do a little summary. So let's go all the way to the back. So let's take that off. So we wish Paolo Futre all the best. He had a heart attack at the weekend, and we wish you well, Paolo. Women's team got thrashed 5-0. The under-21s got beaten 3-1. The under 18s were 1-0 down against Southampton, but they came back to beat them 4-1. Viborg, nice to see some new faces in the first 11. Pity we don't do that in the Premier League, and nice to see some youngsters as well in that game. Great goal by Scamacca, great assist. Bowen, second goal looked class, and I thought that was going to kickstart his season, but unfortunately didn't show up on Sunday as many other players did. Fantastic play by Benny. He didn't get that sort of game time though in the game against Brighton. Great attempt by Cornet. Ashby looked really decent. Is he the next breakthrough in the academy? He looks quite good. Coventry, steady game. And I wonder whether, because what Moyes has said about Downs, is maybe that's why Coventry's still around. Does he really not trust Downs? Our starting 11 against Brighton was disappointing. Kerr challenge, he was left out to high and dry with Zuma giving the ball away so far up the pitch. Scamacca, the 60th minute sub. I hope that changes. I said that before. Zuma looks slow and sluggish, which is why I think we're going to go for the back three. This is the team that I would like to, I would like Moyes to consider. Maybe I should give him a ring and talk to him about it. It looks like we've got It looks like we've got Emerson in. Looks like he'll be a confirmed signing on Tuesday. So if he is in, play him as a wing back. Play either Johnson or Ashby as a wing back on the other side. Have three at the back. Not because I like that system, but because of what we have at the moment. With the problems that we have in central defence, it might be stronger to have Zuma with a player either side of him, Kera and Creswell. And then a choice between either Ben Rama or Fornals alongside Declan. And then to support Skamaka, Bowen and Cornet. It won't happen, but we can all dream, can't we? Moyes talked about, when people were asking earlier on about why does it look a little bit disjointed in the back room. Look, we've lost some characters, Noble, Stuart Pearce, both big characters that we lost. That's going to have an impact. And I just wonder if the comments that Moyes has been making throughout the week about players not being in the right frame of mind, or certainly not where they were over the from a year and a half ago, I wonder if that's had a negative impact on some of the players. We talked about Arthur with his assist away. We talked about Vlasic and the boring 0-0 against Lazio. And then we talked about Trott. He's off to Denmark, to Danish side Vetch for the season. Oggy's return, it was good to see him back for the game against Viborg. I think he'll play on Thursday again, but I'm not so sure it'd be enough for him to play on Sunday. Although it would be nice for him to do so. We don't know when Dawson's back. We keep hearing soon, but I think there's probably a bigger problem than we're being told. Having said that, if he plays any minutes against Viborg on Thursday, that will be a tremendous boost as well. Soufal's injury is not so bad, but I just wonder if he'll be rested for the game on Sunday, and maybe Johnson played instead. So in the transfers, talked about, as I said already, Palmieri looks like he's had his first part of his medical today. Second part will be on Tuesday, and I think he'll be the 13 plus 2 million sign-on. And that should be confirmed on Tuesday if nothing goes wrong. Hans Vanaken, he's said publicly he wants to join West Ham. The club have finally resigned to the fact that they're going to lose him. He's playing a deeper role now, a bit of a playmaker role, but he still scored 11 goals last season. And I think he'll be our 8th signing of the season. Lazaro, who knows? I think, like I said earlier on, got to speak to him and his agents. What's their expectation? Do they think that the player should be starting league games if he comes to us? Who knows? If they do think that, then maybe West Ham is not for him. And then Ainsley Maitland-Miles, I think maybe, why not? He seems like a decent player. Someone mentioned wing-back as well. So he could be an option. And I don't think it would necessarily be that bad an option. There you go. Let me finish off with your final comments. Vinay, summary of tonight's show. Moyes is butthurt because only Lingard and Hugo were his signings, so he won't start new players and stick to a stealth format with board players. Oh, dear. Trini, even though Vanaken could be a difference, I think we need a midfielder that presses and is also creative. What Fornals was before Moyes got to him. That is really true. And funny that, because that's what I said before. Fornals was the creative player. He's had his creativity taken out of him. He is now a hard-working player. I like Fornals, but he's forgotten how to be a creative footballer, which is a shame. Will Vanaken be that replacement? I don't know. Desjardins. Apologies for being late. I hope that, I've given you a catch-up there. I hope that was useful. Claret and Booze. Vanaken is a good player, but Souček is marked. But is Souček marked too? What, because of his height? I don't know about that. Moyes looking for new pieces to prevent him from changing tactics. I don't know if I think he's a very different type of footballer. Trini, from what I remember of Maitland-Miles, should it be Niles? Should it be Niles or should it be Miles? Have I got it wrong again? I have, haven't I? I've got it wrong again. He had energy up and down the pitch. He's only 24 years of age, so let's see. Have I got his name wrong again? Should it be Miles or Niles? I fucked it up, haven't I? Vinay, Moyes wants to sign fourth bench a Sierra Leone. Yeah. Don't start all that rubbish. Scarborough. That's why Moyes is going to go with 3 ball-playing defenders, wing-backs, and a created, dogged midfield. Yeah. Is that good? Is that bad? Third eye. Moyes has said he wants to change the way we play from counter-attacking to breaking teams down. That is true. He did say that. He did say we got to play a different style. Can he do it? Let's see. But he's trying to do that with the same players that couldn't break teams down last year. That's a good point. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mates? Do you think West Ham will sign? Yes, I do. I think we'll get at least 2 this week, and there's a possibility of even more, maybe on loan. Pat, what is frustrating still is the passing ball back to Fab, who then punts it. I agree. Said that earlier on. Absolutely agree. James, professional golfers usually win or improve when they become fathers. There you go. So Declan's going to become even better. He'll become a £200 million player by the end of the season. Third eye. I don't want him sacked at all, but who do we bring if we got rid of Moyes? Pochettino's free, isn't he? Daniela. James Fitzgerald. That's because golfers get more time on the golf course when they become fathers. Daniela knows she plays golf. Schmiegel. Heard we were in talks with the player substitutione. Moyes says he's a good boy. Does what he's told. Good evening, Dream Villas, my bear. How are you? Why are we trying to sign this 30-year-old Vanaken fella? Even Philip Albert doesn't think he'll be a starter at West Ham, and he may struggle with the pace and intensity. I think he's a. We're not buying him for pace without a shadow of a doubt. And as people are saying, it looks like he'll be a deep lying playmaker. Will that work in the Premier League? I think we'll soon find out. Steve Irons, how are you, mates? We should have hammered Forest. No luck at the moment. No, we should have done. And maybe things might have been different. If we won that game, who knows? Things might have been different. Dabs, how are you? Cornet not at full fitness, and Benrahma is in really good form. I'll start Benny over Cornet. I'm suggesting starting both, mate, to be quite honest with you. Charlie, will Emerson play against Villa? If we get him before Friday, then he'll be eligible. But then it's down to whether Moyes will play him. Dabs, Charlie, if it's announced by Friday, especially in medical day, tomorrow, then it should be fine. Hammerette, yeah, Emerson should play on Thursday. He will be eligible for Thursday as well. Epic. Apparently, Atalanta is paying less for Borna Sosa. Don't tell me that. Because, he's a player. It's Niles. Thank you. It's Niles. I fucked up. Good morning, John. How are you, mate? From Thailand. I hope you're well, mate. Simon Biles. Sorry, I'll correct the spelling errors later. Matt, totally wrong on Potter, in my opinion. I think he's a fantastic manager who, with our squad, could easily challenge for Europe. I didn't say he wasn't a bad manager, but I don't know. Maitland Niles, thank you. Yeah, I got it wrong. I didn't say he was a bad manager, but I don't think, honestly, I don't necessarily think he would be. He'd be if he'd be an improvement on West Ham, then he'd have to get us into the top 5, wouldn't he? Because we finished top 6, top 7. Garino, I think the club are holding back some cash in case Broja Gallagher come free on a permanent. I don't think either of them will come on a permanent, but certainly on a loan. Yeah. Scott, does Emerson come straight into the team? I think a lot of people will say yes, but it depends on what Moyes thinks. Scott again. Would we go with 3 in the midfield with Sign Gallagher, or would he need to be slowly brought in? Oh, mate, I think you know the answer to that. Steve Irons, we need a manager, coach who can have many game plans, maybe walk off the pitch in protest. Dabs, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And Moyes has tried to make a perfectly fine squad with good tactics better and made it worse. Well, I think he's had no choice but to get new players in, but he's got to play them. Sam available. We'll leave it at that. Thank you all very much. 2 hours, 27 minutes. I thought I was going to be a lot shorter because I only had 4 players I talked about in the transfer market. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your comments as usual. Keeps the show going. Like I said, if you're new to the channel or if you found me after so long, do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell notification. And thank you all very much indeed for being involved in the chat. Much appreciated. And I'll see you all. Well, I'll do another couple of shows this week because I think there's going to be a hell of a lot more to talk about. So look out for those. See you all very soon. Oh, by the way, Friday night, late is going to be back. Live late night with probably with Nigel because he said do it. And so I'll do it. So watch out for that as well. And watch out for the pre-recorded shows during the week as well. Thank you all for watching. Have a good evening. Have a very good week. And we'll see you all soon.